Welcome to Whisperer of Madness. If you're enjoying the story, consider liking the video and subscribing. It really helps grow the channel and this community. Len put her hand on the aquarium and Bloodstream's putrid eyes looked at her. The sight filled Ryan with scorn and disgust. How? The courier asked, his own breath shortening, a sharp pain around his neck. Even after all these years, he still remembered his adoptive father's hands tightening around his throat. It was true what they said. You never forgot your first. How? Uncontrolled psycho-mutations, Dr. Tyranno answered with a shrug, misunderstanding the question. The vice president refused to feed him genomes, so his genetic code kept degrading into something utterly alien. The human part simply couldn't keep up with the powers after a while. A thought crossed Ryan's mind, that this was the fate that awaited all psychos if they couldn't stave off the decay. The elixirs reshaped their bodies into something inhuman, something better suited to contain the unlimited energies of the colored dimensions. Was Bloodstream even sentient anymore? Did an ember of humanity remain, or were only the elixirs left? Did he recognize his daughter or the smell of her blood? Is he? Shorty's voice sounded so shaken, so weak that Ryan could barely hear her words. Is my father in there? We chemically neutered the creature years ago, and he stopped all attempts at communication afterward, Dr. Tyranno replied with no tact whatsoever. He might have been a genius, but social relationships clearly weren't his specialty. How could you do this? Len hissed, looking at the mad scientist. There was a man inside. Not quite. Management flagged him as a company asset, Tyranno said, completely missing the point. Ryan moved towards the computer panel hooked to the aquarium, his Saturn armor easily hacking into the closed system. Data showed up on his lenses, from biological analyses to reports of knockoff testing. The courier quickly confirmed that Dynamis had Bloodstream in custody since 2016. Tyranno cloned him from samples taken after the psycho raided a company warehouse. Ryan also noticed a folder called Monster Girl Project, which he refused to open. He had the feeling it would traumatize him for all loops to come. Most importantly, though, Ryan learned that Dr. Tyranno used an encrypted email system to discuss with others, mainly his lawyers. The courier memorized the access codes so he could directly contact the deranged genius in a future loop. Why did you want me? Len asked, pointing her water rifle at Tyranno. The dino maniac raised his hands in surrender. What was the point? Because your father implanted a foreign agent inside your blood cells, and it causes the knockoff to react violently on contact, Tyranno confessed. Since the old agent inside your blood precedes the chemical neutering, synthesis creates a new substance capable of resisting it. Our consumers inevitably reverse. A polite way to say they transformed into Bloodstream clones. I petitioned management to study you in depth and reduce risks of reversion, but Mr. Enrique kept vetoing my proposal, the scientist complained. It made the courier respect Blackthorn a bit more than before. Here's the million-dollar question then, Ryan said, glancing at the bloody Shoggoth floating in its aquarium. How do we kill this thing? Len flinched. Riri. Len, your father is gone, Ryan argued, waving a gloved hand at the Psyquinacan. He's not even human anymore. You said you could find a cure for psychos, she protested. I think we can cure humans of their mutations, not turn tomato juice into a Homo sapien. Ryan watched, as Len's weapon shook from her trembling hands. I'm reading the analysis reports right now, and he shares less than 50% of his DNA with humans now. Bananas are closer to us than he is. Even with all the time in the world, which Ryan had, they would need a genome with a miracle solution power. Besides, the courier had no intention of wasting so much time on helping that irredeemable monster. He had raided this lab to confirm Bloodstream's survival, but the boogeyman that haunted his childhood appeared long gone. Ryan would have given all his money to see Len's reaction beneath her helmet. She stood still for a moment before lowering her head and weapon both. She didn't say a word as she registered her friend's words. Perhaps she always knew it would end like this, remaining in denial until she had the facts laid before her eyes. The father she loved died years ago. I don't suppose you have a cure for knockoffs, Ryan asked Tyranno. Of course we have a cure, the mad genius protested, much to the courier's surprise. Do you think we're criminally negligent? You turned a monster into a drink, Ryan replied bluntly. You're worse than Pepsi. But the risks of reversion and health issues approach zero as long as only one dose is used. Which is exactly why I'm nationalizing this place and confiscating all its assets, including you. You can't nationalize a perso. I'm president of the United States of America, which is basically the world, Ryan interrupted him. We're nationalizing you and your cure. How does it work? The scientist opened his mouth to protest further until Ryan pointed at his chest weapon. Ah, the perks of a monopoly on force. I developed an injection-based neutralizing agent, which attacks the bloodstream cells and repairs the target's genetic code back to its pre-consumption state, Dr. Scaly admitted. A stronger variant of the formula can be injected inside the aquarium in case of a containment breach. It destroys the knockoffs entirely. But not alchemist-made elixirs. Ryan asked for confirmation, the genius shaking his head. It made sense. Bloodstream-based knockoffs remained mutated psycho cells in the end, while true elixirs were alien entities beyond conventional biology. If your cure only works through injections, then what happens if multiple knockoff users revert at the same time? Even if you destroy the original source, it won't erase the substance inside all your customers. The risk of a mass reversion is non-existent, Tyranno replied with a shrug, tempting fate. These guys had no plan at all. Dynamy's criminal negligence defied comprehension. All right, in that case, you're surrendering that cure and coming with us to Area 51. The dinosaur squinted. Area 51? A Mechron base, if you want to be technical. Since Ryan knew the location of others, they could always retreat there to research a cure for the psycho condition. He had made a promise to Saw Bianca and would keep it. We can make safer knockoffs than the bottled slimes you harvest here. Elixirs that follow health safety protocols. A Mechron base, the genius, eyes lit up in interest. He couldn't resist the lure of a Mechron-made lab. You know what? I am under contract not to work for the competition, but if you abduct me, I won't resist too much. I think kidnapping counts as force majeure. In my case, it's an act of God. Ryan defended religious tolerance, but only for his own cult. Now, where is your bloodstream vaccine? We're euthanizing him on our way out. Len didn't even respond, much to Ryan's surprise. He had expected her to fight back his decision, but finding the truth had shaken her to the core. Ryan downloaded the bloodstream vaccine's data to use in a future loop. Now they had to figure out a way to leave the building with Tyranno, if possible. Since Ryan knew about the encrypted emails and confirmed bloodstream's survival, he could always contact the scientist in the future and optimize the Lab 66 raid. His armor's sensors suddenly noticed a sharp increase in temperature. No, Shorty, get down, Ryan shouted, but his friend didn't listen. She gazed at the aquarium without a word, lost in her thoughts. Shorty! One of the room's walls melted in a crimson flash. The blast came from the previous room, clearing off the debris blocking the path outside. Ryan covered his helmet with his hand as a cloud of dust filled the laboratory. Alphonse Manata had returned, a living incarnation of nuclear flames. But he wasn't alone. A small troop of men in power armor followed him, led by none other than his brother Blackthorn. Vines and moss covered the ill Miglir manager's armor like a second protective layer, and he alone carried no firearm. Still, he didn't look happy to be there, glancing at the aquarium with disgust. None of this would have happened if you and Father didn't lie to me back then, Enrique said, as his men raised their weapons at Len and Ryan. The courier prepared to fight his way out. Wyvern was right, this can't go on anymore. It will all work out in the end, you'll see, his brother replied, lying to himself. As for Father, he will be out of the picture after this, one way or another. Fallout raised his hand at Ryan and Len but didn't open fire. The risk of breaching the aquarium was too great. All your men are dead and you are surrounded, he threatened. Give up. I don't think so, Ryan said, moving closer to Len while Tyranno hid behind his computer. I've still got the A-bomb in my backpack. If you want a big all-mushroom salad, you'll get it. I don't believe you, Alphonse replied, calling the bluff. I don't understand what you intended to do here, Muty, but you failed. Shorty, cover me, Ryan said. He couldn't take Fallout head-on, but they could bypass him if they played their cards right. But his friend didn't answer. Shorty. Len raised her water rifle at the aquarium and opened fire. A pressurized liquid stream hit the glass before Ryan could stop time. The private security had opened fire at Len, while Enrique vainly raised a hand to tell them to stop. Their lasers were frozen in midair, so the courier tackled Len to the ground out of their reach. Shorty, what the? Ryan couldn't finish his sentence as he took a good look at her helmet. He could only see thick black blood wriggling behind the visor. Ryan glanced at the captive bloodstream in horror, the monster's putrid eyes staring at his daughter with sinister intensity. While the creature was no longer sentient, his proximity triggered the infection inside Shorty and allowed it to take her over. Some of the lasers hit the aquarium's protective barrier as time resumed, and Alphonse charged forward with an angry roar. Len's visor exploded, blood tendrils coming out of it and forcing Ryan to leap back. The courier could only watch as blood leaked from his friend's scaphandar armor, the substance having consumed her from within. As for the aquarium, the glass had cracked and shed tears of blood. Ryan barely had the time to take a few steps as Len's tendrils joined with the slime trapped inside the aquarium, and bloodstreams screamed. The aquarium violently detonated as the imprisoned monster grew in size and strength. The monstrous ooze grew, fanged maws hissing in a maddening cacophony, glistening blue eyes as wide as TV screens, and porous holes unleashing geysers of green flux particles. A strange, alien moss formed on anything these particles touched, like an infection from another reality. Ryan wished he could erase his memory at will, as he watched Len's armor absorbed into the ooze she once called a father. The ogre devoured his daughter. Blackthorn extended his vines to bring Tyranno to safety, but too late. Red slime drowned the scientist, and Alphonse had to use an atomic blast to keep the monster at bay. The ooze took a stream of nuclear fire to the face, but instantly regenerated. Bloodstream's monstrous form kept expanding, filling the room with its vile flesh. Now that it had consumed Len, the monster turned its attention to Ryan. Those glistening alien eyes showed neither intelligence nor a sign of recognition, only hunger. The mind had deteriorated beyond saving, and only the instinct to spread remained. Bloodstream had become a virus. Worse, some of the private security members started screaming, blood flowing out of their armor and shattering their visors. The knockoffs in their circulatory system had started reverting, though Ryan didn't know how far the effect extended. "What's his range?" Ryan muttered to himself, a disturbing thought crossing his mind. Sprinklers rained a white substance in the room, probably Tyranno's vaccine. But the liquid failed to affect the empowered bloodstream, the mutated horror turning into a bloody tidal wave. Ryan froze time the second his cooldown period ended and fled as fast as he could. Alphonse Manata had formed an energy shield around his brother and himself, repelling both the tidal wave of blood and his own men. Ryan glanced at Tyranno, but the man had already drowned inside the eldritch Red Sea. The courier fled through the hole in the wall, leaving the Manatas to fend off for themselves. Ryan couldn't take the risk of bloodstream getting past his armor. If the monster somehow managed to take him over and corrupt his save point, Ryan had to return to Livia to finish the memory transfer. "I gotta get back," he whispered to himself as he reached what remained of the cloning factory. Back to the past. The roof had collapsed on the cloning factory, burying the room and Ryan's dead allies beneath tons of rubble, though Alphonse Manata had successfully melted a path. With the ceiling gone, acid raindrops were falling on the ground from a hole above. Ryan activated his jetpack, just as time resumed. A flood of blood overflowed into the factory an instant later, spreading through the building. Ryan managed to escape the flood, flying in the skies above the Dynamis HQ. If Bloodstream could generate mass from nowhere, then it meant his mutations had empowered him beyond his original powers. But Ryan didn't understand how much, until he took a good look at New Rome. The city had turned red. People mutated everywhere Ryan looked, blood bursting from their skin to transform them into Bloodstream clones. Every knockoff elixir across New Rome had reverted to its original nature. Genomes turned into monsters, attacking the uninfected like rabid dogs. On the ground, Ryan watched a single Bloodstream clone fire crystallized spikes at private security personnel. Everyone scratched by the projectiles joined the zombie horde. Fires had spread everywhere, with even the acid downpour unable to drench them. Mount Augustus had turned into a fiery candle, the smoke coming from it obscuring the skies for miles, and Rust Town didn't look any better. His power has no range anymore, Ryan realized, his throat sore from the phantom pain of his first loop. Whole world. He will spread to the whole world. He will become the world. This was a nightmare. "Helen," Ryan shouted. The acid downpour continued to fall somehow. "Helen, where are you?" He caught sight of her on the ground, a bloody monster, switching places with raindrops as it fell down on the uninfected like a hawk on mice. Bloodstream could not only infect genomes, but keep using their powers. If he infected Ryan, Bloodstream would gain access to time travel. Alchemo, braindead, are you there? Ryan called the rest of his team in frantic panic, only to be met with radio silence. Anyone? But nobody answered. Ryan thought he would only care for T, but her father's silence, it made his heart ache for a moment. Damn it, this was the third apocalypse taking place in New Rome since he started, and the worst by far. Livia, Ryan called while changing the frequency. The building below him turned red, as the ever-growing bloodstream shattered the window and flowed down the steel walls like a waterfall. A long tendril 30 meters in size attempted to capture the courier, who dodged and flew away south of the city. Livia! If Bloodstream got to her before he did. A soft, reassuring voice answered his plea. Ryan. Ryan let out a breath of relief. Livia, are you well? Yes, I'm in a safe house in Sorrento. She marked a short pause, her breath hastening in panic. Ryan, what's going on? My visions, I can't believe what I'm seeing. It's raining blood outside. Thank God, his first lady had made it to the Cheyenne Mountains. Barricade yourself and prepare for the memory transfer. I'm sending you the data I gathered. Record it and don't touch anyone but me, not a drop of blood. It's dynamis, isn't it? She guessed, coughing. Is it too late to do anything? It's too late this time, Ryan replied bluntly, his fists clenching in rage. But not for the next. He could have sworn she had nodded on the other end of the line. Don't die on the way, Livia pleaded. I will be waiting for you. Ryan cut communications as he crossed paths with other flyers in the skies. Leo the Living Son and Shroud oversaw the devastation in shaken silence, though the latter created a cloud of flying glass shards upon seeing the president approach. Truce. Ryan shouted, crossing his arms. Truce! You caused this, Shroud snarled. This is all your foul. Leo Hargraves broke out of his trance and raised a hand to stop his comrade. He understood that at this point they couldn't afford to fight, not even a dashing supervillain. Is your sister? Sunshine asked Ryan, acidic rain turning to colored steam on contact. Is she dead? Ryan looked away, his silence a confirmation in itself. Leo the Living Son looked down in complete defeat. I'm sorry for her, and for you, Matthias, we failed your mother's last request. We couldn't stop it, Shroud muttered to himself, his voice breaking in sadness and despair. You knew this would happen, Ryan asked, more disappointed with himself than anything it was foretold, so we tried to destroy Bloodstream, but... Leonard struggled to find his words. We failed. We only delayed the disaster, Mr. See-Through said before glancing at his teammate. Leo, you have to do it. If I unleash my full power, everyone in the city will burn, Leo warned. Ryan had never heard him sound so defeated. Millions will perish. And if a single bird gets away, the whole world will follow. Shroud let out a sigh of resignation. There is no other way. The whole world is affected, Ryan said. Even though he would reload soon, he didn't think Leonard deserved to have these deaths on his conscience in any timeline. Dynamis has genomes outside New Rome, and they probably turned. It's useless, but it will delay the virus spread, Shroud insisted. We can gain enough time to protect other comm, thunder echoed above their heads. Crimson lightning struck Shroud, cooking his flesh within his own glass armor. The bolt formed a hole in his chest, vaporizing organs and sending the vigilante falling down to a burning street below. Leo let out a shout of horror and surprise, while Ryan looked up at the bolt's source. Hargraves. Augustus descended from the clouds above, clad in crimson lightning like a shining angel cast down to earth. I should have known you were involved. Lightning Butt's clothes had been torn to shreds, but the man himself was unharmed. His right hand carried the upper half of a destroyed rabbit plushie, its white fur blackened by ashes. The gods had won the Lepiromatia. You fool! Leo snarled at his archenemy, his flames now blindingly bright. The world is at stake here. The only world I want to live in, Mob Zeus replied with his fist raised, is one where your sun has set. Moving as fast as Ryan on a good day, the warlord punched Leo in the chest, his fingers tearing through the flames to hit a burning core underneath. The blow sent the Living Sun crashing onto the ground, the impact vaporizing Bloodstream clones into ashes. You! Ryan snarled in true fury, as Lightning Zeus charged lightning to smite his fallen foe. This maniacal man would put his personal vendetta above anything else. You selfish discount ivory statue. I've had enough. You're going down somehow. Mob Zeus looked at him with murder on his mind, and Ryan cursed his tongue. The courier reflexively stopped time just as the discount Greek god unleashed an electrical storm in his direction. Though the purple world overshadowed New Rome and trapped it between 2 seconds, neither Augustus nor his lightning slowed down. The invulnerable man completely shrugged the time stop off. But Vulcan made the best armor, and Ryan expected the unexpected. Mob Zeus blinked as the courier's chest weapon absorbed the crimson bolt. The mechanism didn't have a limitless energy storage capacity, but it gave the time traveler enough time to strike back. Though he knew it was useless, Ryan punched Augustus in the face with all his might, and it felt good. His armored fist hit the man's ivory cheek, violet and black particles swirling around his fingers. Ryan expected to hurt himself more than discount Zeus, especially since it felt like hitting a wall of diamond. But to his surprise, the blow startled the tyrant. The punch didn't inflict any damage and seemed no more effective than a light slap, but it shorted out the lightning halo for an instant. For a brief moment, Ryan could see the old man beneath the godly facade, his eyes widening in shock while the courier's fist still touched his cheek. Lightning Butt's gaze turned from surprise to fury, and if the courier wasn't mistaken, a hint of fear. "I felt that," Augustus said. Time unfroze as Ryan registered these words, and Mob Zeus punched back. He hit harder than Wyvern, Adam the Ogre, and anyone else Ryan ever fought before. His fist cracked the armor's chest protection, shattering the weapon beneath into scraps, and sent the courier flying backward. The time traveler hit a building, came out on the other side, and barely managed to regain control of his flight before he crashed on the ground. The jetpack had survived the blow, but the armor had been breached. A single drop of blood could slip through. Even now, he sensed an acid raindrop burn his skin below the steel. So Ryan immediately focused on regaining altitude and looked behind him. Thankfully for the courier, Hargraves had engaged Augustus in melee, delaying him for now. Sunshine had become a blinding star blazing across the skies, his heat causing the atmosphere to simmer around him. However, Ryan could see the shadow of his invulnerable enemy trying to grab the living sun's core. Perhaps that was Hargraves' sole weakness. The living sun's fires burnt Augustus' clothes, but they couldn't melt his ivory body. Leo could delay his foe, but not defeat him. Eventually, the superhero would either retreat or perish, and then Augustus would go after Ryan. The president redirected all remaining power to his jetpack and left New Rome in the dust. It took Ryan 1 hour to reach Livia's hideout. New Rome had long vanished in a flash of crimson light by then, its building, its land, its people incinerated. Whether Alphonse Manata went nuclear or Sunshine turned into a supernova, Ryan would never know. Though he was miles away by then, the courier still felt the blast's shockwave. It changed nothing. As the courier flew over a forest, he watched the trees turning red, their leaves transforming into organs, their bark into crystallized blood. Even some birds had turned into abominations, pursuing Ryan to infect him. Though they were too slow to catch up, the sight filled the time traveler with horror. This blue planet would soon turn red. He found Livia waiting for him in Sorrento, south of New Rome. She stood on the roof of the same building where Ryan had been evacuated, back when the Meta blew up the city. The courier thought the Augusti princess was foolish to expose herself, before noticing the ring of ash surrounding the building. Dozens, if not hundreds of turrets formed an impregnable perimeter around the safe house, vaporizing any bloodstream clone approaching. Thankfully, the security system recognized his armor and let him pass. "Remind me to send chocolates to Vulcan after the reset," Ryan said as he landed on the roof, covering his chest with one hand. Acid rain's raindrops had eaten at his chest, blood dripping from the cracks left by Augustus. Though not perfect, no one can deny her security systems are effective. Livia's eyes wandered to his wound with concern, and though he warned her not to touch blood of any kind, her fingers trailed against his chest of steel. "Who did this to you?" "Your dad," Ryan replied, causing Livia to bite her lower lips. Even with the world going down in flames, he still wanted revenge above all else. "I see," she said, her eyebrows furrowing. "And Len, the others. Just me." Ryan let out a tired sigh. "Again, and over again, just us." Livia looked at him with pity and compassion. "This is what you were trying to stop, or something else. I can't imagine the burden on your shoulders. It must have been agonizing." There is still time to change this terrible ending. Ryan had the data he needed for his perfect run now, all pieces of the New Rome puzzle. He only needed to assemble them in the correct sequence. Yes, but next time, Livia looked up at him with determination. Next time you won't carry this cross alone, Ryan, I swear to you. Number Ryan would have other people to help carry his load. Livia, Len, Alchemo, and others. Their memories would endure this reset, and he would ferry their minds across space and time. The time traveler opened the Saturn armor's backpack, bringing out a metal helmet. He carefully put it on Livia's head and hooked the device to his suit's chronoradio. Will it hurt? She asked. Only for me, but don't worry, I'm immortal. I won't tell anyone, she replied with a smile. We'll find a painless way next time. I won't have you die for our mistakes. Ryan almost told her not to make promises she couldn't keep, but though this loop ended bleakly, it also filled his heart with hope. Next loop would be different than anything that came before. The courier had no idea if his power would even stay the same, now that the Black World's power coursed through his veins. This reset was a dive into the unknown, but someone would wait for him on the other side. We'll see, Ryan said as he activated his power. He halted the march of time, his armor turning dark purple. A torrent of violet particles surrounded him and Livia like a flood, with the occasional black spot floating among them like oil in the water. The courier noticed an ivory man flying in their direction, far too late to change anything. As the transfer finished, and this loop collapsed in an ocean of violet particles, Ryan thought back to his brief fight with Augustus. He had wondered what wish the Black Ultimate One granted him, but now he had his answer. What did you call a power that could kill immortals? A paradox. In the end, all of Ryan's loops started the same way, by ramming his car into Ghoul's back. You know, you have become a fixture in my life, Ryan said as he exited his Plymouth and walked into Renesco's bar. By now, this place had become a second home to the courier. He had grown almost paternally fond of the wall he kept crashing into. I've had more dates with you than with Jasmine. Ghoul wriggled on the ground, trying to rise up again using the bar counter. The barman Renesco hid behind it, unsure how to react to Ryan's unforgettable entrance. The courier happily waltzed through debris, wind entering the establishment through the hole in the wall. I thought my life was a black comedy, maybe a tragicomedy, but now I realize it was a vampire romance all along. Ryan loomed over Ghoul, hands behind his back. The psycho was halfway back on his feet, while the other patrons dared not interfere. Do your bones shine in sunlight? What the hell are you talking? Ghoul screamed as Ryan introduced the undead's knee to his boot, the psycho collapsing on the ground. You bastard! All of this to say that I'm not stalking you, the courier said as he kicked his beloved again. I mean, look at me, I'm handsome. Only ugly people stalk, that's well known. If I hurt you, it's out of love. His love of hurting Ghoul. Darkling had said that the Black Ultimate One would remove it from causality and all future resets, and Ryan had wondered if it also applied to its previous hosts. However, the bag of bones had returned without any memory of the previous loop, which meant that big fat Adam lived again, plotting mischief. I'm calling security, the barman Renesco complained behind the bar counter, while the wounded Ghoul tried to crawl away from Ryan. The undead looked at the courier as if he were insane, which wounded his soft, sensible heart. Ryan didn't react well to rejection. I know your secret weakness, Ghoul, Ryan said, as he opened his car's back door. A kryptonite you cannot hope to defend yourself against. A dirty street dog leaped out of the Plymouth Fury, her sparkling eyes lacking anything resembling intelligence. She was the bastard daughter of a mastiff and a greyhound, and inherited the ugliest parts of both. Her tongue stuck out, fleas happily moving on from her blackening fur to greener pastures. This plebeian creature lacked Eugene Henry's aristocratic flair, but had a certain rustic charm, though her terrible stench made the bar's patrons recoil. Her name is Henriette. I found her eating trash on my way to the bar, and I bought her loyalty with a ham. Ryan always kept food in his car for situations like this. Now, as a cat person, this may seem like a betrayal, and it is. Ryan petted his hellhound behind the ears, and she loved it very much. All dogs wanted affection. I have no shame, no hesitation, no principles. What do you want? Ghoul asked, looking at Henriette with dread. The she-dog had noticed him, her eyes rising up as she gazed at his barebone legs with hunger. The psycho knew what was coming. Only your pain, Ryan replied, pointing a finger at his prey. Go, girl. Henriette leaped on Ghoul, and he couldn't crawl away fast enough. The dog brought her new master a beautiful femur a few seconds later, and she was very proud of it too. Ghoul was only the first person on Ryan's Christmas list. After the tense ending of the previous loop, the courier needed a moment of respite and catharsis before getting down to business. Ryan's next naughty child lived not so far from Jamie's own house. The courier knocked on the door of a single-story bungalow, so perfect in its mundanity. Only the condemned windows indicated something wrong with the tenant. The door soon opened, revealing a lean, gaunt man with snow-white skin and raven hair. This pallid scarecrow remained in the darkness, fearing the sunlight that would certainly burn his unholy soul. Garish, colorful paint figments covered his dirty clothes. The black circles around his bloodshot, green eyes told Ryan he had just woken up. Damn, not only was this man a hitman, but he was also a vampire. Richard Pinkman. Ryan asked, "Night Terror." Yes." The vampire squinted suspiciously at the courier. "Do we know each other? I have something for you, though it's a bit late." Ryan wanted to make this delivery in the last loop, but never found the opportunity to do so. "The night is dark and full of terrors, huh?" The man frowned, realizing that his visitor knew of his power and its limitations. The vampire's hand moved to his back, perhaps looking for a gun, as if he could hurt the pure of heart. "What kind of delivery?" Ryan punched him in the face so hard that the man stumbled backward. His back hit something with a loud clatter, though the courier couldn't see due to the darkness inside the house. "Don't make me live through my childhood traumas again," Ryan warned the vicious telepath. The fact these nightmares became real afterward had left the courier bitter. "You can't fathom how much money I spent on therapists." Night Terror didn't answer, knocked out cold. Ryan took a moment to check off his Christmas list, finding the next name to be Karen Rixai, alias the Vamp. After the vampire, the witch. Unfortunately, it was getting late, and the courier might not survive his plan for her. Luigi came afterward, but Ryan was too tired for a late afternoon hockey match. Maybe later. A princess waited for him. Ryan reached the Deadland Motel by nightfall, parking his car near the entrance. Henriette sat at his side, the bastard dog whining at her new master with shameful eyes. Though he favored cats and rabbits above all else, Ryan had learned how to handle dogs across loops. He knew that look. "You want a litter box?" Henriette yapped in response, her tongue sticking out of her mouth. She made a face only a dog lover could appreciate. "Ghoul," Ryan said, looking at the rearview mirror. The lonely skull on the backseat looked back at the courier with fear. For a moment, Ryan almost felt pity for the murderous bag of bones. But then, he remembered his previous loop, and how Ghoul had encouraged his boss to turn the time traveler into a psycho. Ryan removed his mask and hat, his terrible smile causing the undead to whine in stark, raving terror. "Open your mouth!" Bone Daddy's screams of despair were music to Ryan's ears, though they ended too soon. The psycho had lost his courage with his spine. Ryan left Henriette to her new chew toy and walked towards the motel. He noticed light coming from Livia's room, but no Killer 7 member was guarding the door. Odd. Still, Ryan whistled as he opened the suite's door, finding his former first lady waiting for him. The table was set, with delightful cookies and steaming coffee waiting for consumption. Livia stood on the other side, her back turned against Ryan. She wore an elegant blue leather coat and long velvet gloves, a true femme fatale straight out of a detective noir movie. Her platinum hair flowed down like a silver waterfall. "Hello, princess," Ryan said as he closed the door behind him. "How was your first time travel trip?" Livia turned around, her blue eyes observing him with cold amusement. Her face reminded Ryan of her Aunt Pluto's lovely deadliness. "Pretty good," she said, her tone dangerous. "Though it will be the last." Ryan frowned. "What do you mean?" "I am so sorry, Ryan, but now that I remember everything, you have outlived your usefulness. I have all the intel I need to take over the city, and the only obstacle remaining," she marked a short pause, "is you." Shit. I thought we were friends," Ryan complained, his hand moving to his coat to draw a knife. "And you believed me." The courier froze as Livia's hands moved to her chair. Somehow, her every movement seemed effortlessly threatening. "Cancel is waiting outside, and her power is already at work. It's over." Oh gods, this was Alchemo's betrayal all over again. Ryan reflexively activated his power, and the world turned purple as he prepared to strike Livia. Wait, how could his time stop still work if Cancel was around the door? Ryan looked at the frozen Livia and noticed the smile she desperately tried to suppress. No way, she wouldn't dare. She wouldn't dare. Ryan quickly opened the door when time resumed and found no killer outside. She dared. You evil mastermind." Ryan said while closing the gate behind him, the hidden knife back inside his trench coat. You pranked me, Livia responded with a warm, delightful laughter. I'm sorry, she apologized, a sheepish grin on her face. I know this is silly, but I always wanted to make a speech like this. I knew nobody else would take it seriously. Her last loop as Ryan's sidekick had corrupted Livia. He had created a monster. I apologize if I scared you. I didn't know how you would react, which is why I did it. Livia shyly joined her hands. Can you forgive me, Ryan? I could never blame someone with such an impeccable fashion sense, Ryan said, sitting around the table. But don't try it again, princess. I could have killed you. I'm really sensitive about these things. Her joy instantly turned to horror. Truly, Livia asked while she sat as well. What happened? A few people went mad after I informed them of the truth, Ryan admitted, warming his hands by touching his coffee cup. Some tried to restrain me so I wouldn't reload. Others went farther. And now Livia regretted her joke. Her hands moved to touch his own and they felt warmer than the cup. I'm sorry, Ryan. I didn't wish to open up old wounds. Nah, it's all right. If anything, you're helping them to heal. At long last, Ryan had an ally that would help up across future loops. With Livia's help, he could make his allies remember him. His friendships would survive the test of time. I already retaliated anyway. What do you mean? Livia frowned as she suddenly realized the cookies had vanished. Did you eat them in the frozen time? Ryan smiled. That was childish, Livia said as she returned the smile, her hands moving back to her own coffee cup. So Ryan, how do we win? The word warmed Ryan's heart like a campfire on a cold night. Ryan shared with Livia the previous loop's end. How he and Len confirmed that Dynamis kept a mutated bloodstream prisoner inside their lab fortress, and how Len's presence allowed it to escape. He told her of his allies, last stand against Alphonse Manata, how Bloodstream destroyed New Rome, and how Augustus chose to attack Leo Hargraves rather than stop fighting. The courier didn't mention how he managed to hurt Lightning Butt, though. His daughter might not react well, and Ryan himself didn't fully understand what happened. He needed more time to figure that part out. The more Livia listened, the deeper the frown on her face. This is horrifying, she said, sipping her coffee thoughtfully. Seeing your stepfather in such a state, I hate him. Seeing Bloodstream devour his own daughter only reinforced Ryan's poor opinion of him. Death will be a mercy. Can we even kill him? If he makes up dynamis, knockoff elixirs, then a part of him will remain within countless genomes. I have the formula for Dr. Tyranno's vaccine. Unless Bloodstream's core is in contact with Len's blood, he won't develop an immunity to it. The monster didn't do so either when Shorty's fluids touched a knockoff elixir, perhaps because her father had very little control over his fragments while neutered by dynamis. But it works through injections, Livia pointed out. Even with the best vaccination campaign, many will refuse to give up their powers, especially since most paid a small fortune for them. Yeah, and people smoke while thinking they'll win the coin toss. Ryan let out a shrug. I have an idea in mind, but I want your opinion first. How much time do we have? I ran simulations while listening to your tale, Livia said, joining her fingers. Now that I know what is inside Lab 66, my visions are more accurate. The odds of this pandemic are low, but increase dramatically if Alphonse Manata takes over dynamis. And he will, given time. It might take a year or 10, but the odds increase with time. It can happen even under Hector Manata's chairmanship. The incompetent chairman didn't worry the courier much. By now, he had realized that Adam Smasher was the real threat among his family. The strongest, the most determined. Bloodstream would need to go whatever happened, but Livia's prophecy reassured Ryan somewhat. Out of all the disasters we must solve, this one is a long-term problem, the courier said. The two other calamities won't wait years. Livia scowled. When will the Metagang use Mecron's satellite weapon? Somewhere between May 12th and 18th. Big Fat Adam used the weapon on the last date, but Ryan had seen him and Sipsy take over the bunker as early as May 12th. The malevolent sociopath had almost pulled the trigger when the Manata invaded his HQ in the Dynamis loop. And if nothing is done, Leo Hargraves and the Carnival will arrive in New Rome within 3 weeks. And my father will wage war on them, Livia said sorrowfully, destroying New Rome. I'm sorry, Ryan apologized. Your father is not a nice man. I know, she said, looking away. Do you have a paper sheet? A few seconds later, Livia scribbled a makeshift calendar on a paper sheet, planning the month of May. She added crosses on the 12th, 18th, and 28th, the rough date of Hargrave's planned arrival, though Ryan never carried a loop this far. We must deal with Adam the ogre first, Livia stated the obvious as she examined the calendar. We have 4 days to prepare an attack. It will have to be done today in the final loop. The fat ass is throwing people at the bunker's defenses as we speak. The memory of Hannafat Lecter threatening to eat a hostage still haunted the courier. The longer we wait, the higher the kill count. So this loop is not the final one even in the best-case scenario, Livia asked with a frown. You want to assault the bunker the moment the next loop begins, after I take out the trash first. Much like during his suicide run, Ryan would demolish Ghoul and then attack the bunker afterward. If Adam and Sishak can be neutralized, then I can subsume their minions. If we have a cure for the psycho condition, it'll be even easier. I can help with the assault, but I'm afraid my father will catch wind of the bunker if I call upon more help, Livia said. Fortuna would hold her tongue, though. Would the 3 of us be enough to defeat the metagang? I'm not sure. Lucky Girl might make up for Darkling's absence or the plushie's inactivity, or maybe not. Shorty would probably help even without her memories, and perhaps Shroud too. I need to perfect the memory transfer. The more people fighting with us, the better. Especially since we need you to manually transfer memories. If you perish early, then this complicates the next loop. Livia crossed her arms. Can you recreate the mind transfer machine on your own? Ryan shook his head. Even with his considerable financial resources, the genius device needed pieces difficult to make without a support network. I will need more technological resources, either the bunker, Vulcan, or Dynamis. I can introduce you to Vulcan, Livia argued. I will not ask for the machine's blueprints if you're worried about that. Will you do a new villain speech if I give it away? Ryan teased her. I doubt it will surprise you again, she mused, though her smile quickly faltered. What about Matthias? I can convince the carnival to halt its assault on your family if I swear to play double agent, destroy the Bliss factory, and sabotage your mob's operations. Livia frowned in skepticism. Will Ischia Island's destruction prevent Hargraves from showing up? I'm not sure. The carnival wants to end your family's criminal activities, and honestly, I can't blame them for it. If only a battle between the 2 organizations didn't threaten to tear the city apart. And then there's Narcinia. Your father abducted her and murdered her parents. Livia looked at her coffee cup, losing herself in the steaming blackness. She had confirmed this story in the previous loop, and it shook her to the core. Perhaps she thought that while her father was ruthless, he only went after people who threatened him first. Only now did she see Lightning Butt's true, hateful self. I still can't forgive Hargraves for killing my mother, Livia said. What happened to Narcinia's parents didn't make this a justified retaliation. However, I agree that Narcinia suffered a terrible injustice, and it is my duty to correct it. The carnival is pretty reasonable, Ryan argued, having dealt with them extensively. If they understand that you will inherit your father's empire to better dismantle it, maybe they won't poke the hornet's nest. Returning Narcinia to them would show your goodwill. Let me think about this, Livia said. I need more time to process simulations. A wrong move here could make my father overreact. What an understatement. She might as well have said the Titanic had a small ice problem. And finally, we must destroy what remains of your stepfather. Livia changed the subject. What was your idea? A carnival member, Dr. Stitch, is a genius specialized in viruses and illnesses, Ryan said. Since he already studied bloodstream, I believe he could create something from the vaccine. Livia's head perked up in interest. A knockoff vaccine plague. Something like that. I can also contact Tyranno, see if he can help as well. If the sample in Len's body is neutralized, then bloodstream cannot escape. Ryan finished his coffee. As you see, Princess, all the pieces are there. We just need to find the right way to assemble them, the sequence that will save everyone. Can we? Livia asked with a frown. Save everyone? Yes, everyone who deserved to be saved, at least. It's not my first rodeo. Livia looked into his eyes, her face undecipherable. How many resets did it take you to reach this moment? Ryan shrugged. Dozens, and you are not yet done. Livia shook her head, her gaze full of compassion. I was sincere when I told you we should find a way to ease your burden. I won't have you martyr yourself on a cross for our sake. Who else will? Ryan asked back. Someone has to do it. Millions of lives are at stake. But the process doesn't have to be painful or lonely, Livia argued. I'm sure we can find a way to make your resets painless. I doubt I am the only one who cares for your well-being. The time traveler looked away. Shorty cared too, but she was family. Even Alchemo had tried to set his foot down to earn Ryan's forgiveness. I made promises, the courier said, thinking back of Jasmine, Bianca, and so many others. Fulfilling them is all that matters. Not if it means you sacrifice your own happiness for others. Livia smiled. A perfect ending for everyone includes you too, Ryan. If only she knew. Ryan's mind wandered back to his first perfect run in Monaco, where he saved Simon and so many more from that hellish prison. Though he gave a happy ending to everyone else, the adventure left the courier with a bittersweet taste. He alone had remembered the moment they all shared together. His perfect runs afterward had left him with the same feeling. But this time would be different. He hoped things would change this time around. He wanted them to. I will try, Ryan said. Any suggestion on how to proceed? Livia answered with a nod. Join my father's organization and tell the carnival that you will act as their mole to buy time. I can introduce you to Vulcan so you may recreate your brain transfer machine, and I will see how to deal with Narcinia. It will be easier to plan the raid on the Metagang if we cooperate closely. Do you think you could turn some of the psychos against Adam before we attack the bunker? What about Sarin? Ryan shook his head. Sarin only attacks the harbor if Ghoul can back her up and Sishak isn't neutralized, but I need to offer the bag of bones to appease the carnival and that telepath has to go. I have no other means of contacting her for certain. I am not certain that trusting the carnival is the right step, Livia admitted, slightly worried. But I trust you, Ryan, if you feel this is the right way. It's the best option we have right now, Ryan said, rising from his seat. I need to meet with Len now. Both to arrange the memory transfer and prepare for Sishak's inevitable raid on the orphanage. I have her brain map and others. We can arrange the transfer as soon as you have the machine operational. Livia's fingers fidgeted nervously. You will stay at Jamie Cutter's house this time around. It's probable, Ryan replied. That or Len's place. Maybe I will pay you a visit then, the Mafia princess said with a friendly grin. It doesn't feel right you're always the one coming to visit me. Ryan chuckled. You will need a diving suit if I'm moving in with Shorty. I would prefer a drier place, Livia mused. See you soon, Ryan. See you soon, princess, he said as he closed the door behind him. Now he needed to convince an old friend to have her brain rewritten. A tall order. The courier returned to his car, finding Henriette playfully licking a dejected skull. The light had left out Ghoul's eyes alongside all his hopes. Shorty, Ryan said as he put on the chrono radio. Shorty, I know you can hear me. The chrono radio played a song from a time that never was. We need to talk, the courier continued, letting out a sigh. Your father is alive. Dynamis holds him prisoner in one of their labs. Her response came out of the radio seconds afterward. Meet me at the orphanage. Ryan had heard these words before, but never with that tone. Anger and determination. Dynamis would never know what hit them. You don't believe me? Ryan asked Len, his feet dangling from the edge of the orphanage's roof. The stars shone brightly in New Rome's polluted skies, their light piercing through the darkness. How can I? Len asked, holding her head with her hands. Her water rifle remained within reach of her hand. Time travel, downloadable memories. This is insane, Riri. Insane. And my father, you're saying my father is alive, and that Dynamis turned him into. Well, as alive as a virus could be. Wait, could Pluto kill Bloodstream for good if her power registered him? Food for thought. Ryan raised a hand to comfort Len, but his old friend recoiled. Without her memories, all the trust he managed to build up between them had vanished. It would have hurt once, but not this time. With Livia's help, forgetfulness would no longer be a curse, but a temporary obstacle, if he could convince Len to accept the memory transfer procedure, which, considering her trust issues, might prove difficult. Perhaps Ryan should save a few seconds after he began a new loop. If he could only bring back a person at once, this would at least make the memory transfer permanent. They would only remember one loop, so it was an imperfect solution, but it was better than nothing. This is too much. Too much. I need time to process this. Len joined her hands, hyperventilating. It took her a few minutes to recover, and Ryan waited patiently. I need to see the tech in question, Riri. If it's really mine, I will recognize it. All the other stuff you could have invented or learned through other means, but... Sure, Ryan replied with a warm tone, trying to reassure her. Anything you need. Len took a long, deep breath. Riri, what happened to me? She asked with a soft, weak voice. When we reached that lab, assuming I believe your tale, you said I died, but not how. How did I perish? You really want to know? Ryan asked with a sigh. It will hurt, Shorty. More than everything else you told me. She struggled to hold back tears. He killed me. Yes, Ryan admitted. She deserved to know the truth, no matter how horrifying. There's a piece of him in your blood, some kind of sleeper agent or tracking device. When you approached your father, I became him. Warm tears rained down Len's cheeks while she pinched her nose not to sob. Perhaps a part of her always knew it was a possibility, even if she refused to believe it. She did believe Ryan. Even if the tale sounded outlandish, Shorty still thought her oldest friend wouldn't lie to her, no matter how horrifying the tale. Len, theirs. Ryan struggled to find the right words so she wouldn't panic. If the blood sample inside you could transform you into a monster, maybe it can do something subtler. Len glared at him, her sadness transforming into anger. You're saying that my father influenced my thoughts, that my feelings for him aren't my own. Maybe they are or maybe not, but the doubt remains as long as you carry that infection. The courier crossed his arms. Len, we have to remove it, not only for everyone else's sake, but yours too. How? It's inside me, Riri. It's in my blood like a cancer, and your vaccine won't work on it. I know a few geniuses who could help. He had already sent an email to Dr. Tyranno through the Scaley's secure channel, offering him to cooperate on knockoff research. Asking for information about his secret Monster Girl project, much to the courier's shame. One can even help you with my depression, Len frowned. I'm not a problem to be solved. No. That was exactly why he had been opposed to interacting with her across many loops. If her experience didn't carry through, then the courier would treat her less like a person and more like an equation. It's if you want, after recovering your memories. And if I don't want your transfer. Len wiped away the tears with her hand. Will you repeat this conversation until I say yes? Ryan paused to consider the question, realizing that his entire plan hinged on Len accepting the memory transfer. If his amnesiac friend wouldn't, then what could he do? Kidnap her and transfer the memories by force. Find a way to transfer the stored knowledge across time without the current Len's consent. You would rather stay amnesiac? The courier asked. It's not brainwashing. It will remember memories that you forgot, but it won't erase yours. But it will change me, and I don't know how, but... You're afraid of what you will learn, Ryan guessed. Ignorance was bliss. Answer me, Riri. I will respect your choice, even if it hurts. In the end, Ryan couldn't force his decisions upon those he loved. I can offer my hand, but you have to reach back too. Len raised her knees, holding them with her arms in a fetal position. Her expression was thoughtful, undecipherable. Sishak will attack this place in 2 days, Ryan reminded her, changing the subject. We need to prepare for it. This place is rotten, Len said, glancing at New Rome's bright neon lights. The deeper I go, the stronger the stench. The flashy colors only hide the ugliness underneath. I agree with you that most of the locals don't have fashion sense, but there are quite a few locals overflowing with glamour. Ryan should introduce Len to wardrobe at one point. Where did you go after we split up? The Canary Islands, Len admitted. The sub's autopilot tried to bring me to the USA, but an engine problem halfway redirected it to the closest island. I stayed a few months there before moving on. So the Laika had honored its namesake. Pretty nice place, Ryan said. I'm surprised they managed to establish an independent republic from Dynamis, considering how half of Spain has fallen under their control. Len's head perked up in surprise. You went there? Yeah, I think it was. 200 years ago, Ryan's memory was a bit foggy as his adventures in North Africa hadn't been memorable. A while ago, we must have missed each other. It was nice. The islanders are nice. Will you return there? Ryan asked, his old friend shaking her head. They still fight each other sometimes, she said. Wherever I went, there were always genomes who wanted more. I couldn't make a difference there, and I couldn't make a difference in New Rome either. You still can. Even if we reveal how the knockoffs are truly made of, Dynamis will continue to oppress people. If they could do something like that for a few more euros, then they're capable of anything. She shook her head. And the Augusti Destroy lives through drugs and blood money. I've seen the ruins of Malta below the sea, Riri. Augustus made an underwater tomb for thousands. She wasn't wrong, but again she only saw the darkness and missed the stars. I think these groups can change, Ryan said, remembering his ill Miglir loop and his discussions with Livia. If the right people are in charge. I hope you're right, but you don't believe me. Ryan shrugged, rising up and walking on the roof. It's fine, I'll change your mind. You're going, Len bit her lower lip. You can stay, Thanks, Ryan said from the bottom of his heart. I still have another date, though. He moved to the door separating the roof from the levels below, but his hand stopped on the handle. Len, there's something I never dared to ask you before in any of our conversations. Ryan peeked over his shoulder, Len still sitting on the roof's edge. That day, when I returned to our hideout, you and the sub were gone. Did you leave, or was it the autopilot? Len looked away, avoiding his gaze. I waited for you and Dad until the last second, and when you didn't return, I didn't know what to do. I thought you were both dead, and I just let the Laika carry me away." With her family gone, Len had lost all hope for a better life. But she had waited for Ryan until the very end, and so he wouldn't abandon her. Ryan left Len to meditate on what he told her, crossing paths with little Sarah in the stairs. She must have tried to eavesdrop, only to find the door firmly closed. "Hey, Pinsize," the courier waved a hand at this petulant child, delighting in teasing her. "Have you seen my dog? I'm taking her on a walk." "Wait until I hit puberty, jackass," the child replied, crossing her arms while pouting. "Your doggy is playing with that lazy cat and your rabbit outside." Ryan's hands hastily moved to his trench coat, searching his pockets. A bomb, check. Guns, check. Knives, check. Buzzer, check. Plushie, not check. Uh-oh. Ryan rushed outside much to Sarah's surprise, slamming the orphanage's doors open. He found Henriette playing with Eugene Henry in the yard. The courier had introduced his pets to each other, and the aristocratic cat dealt with the lowborn dog the same way a noble did with a peasant, by trying to ignore her entire existence. Still, Henriette proved too obstinate, or too stupid, to realize that. She kept licking and nuzzling the cat in an attempt to elicit a reaction, to no avail. And the plushie sat on the steps, the button on its back switched on. The vile, long-eared demon glanced south of New Rome, perhaps dreaming of setting the city ablaze. How? Ryan didn't let it anywhere near the orphans. Who could have stolen it from him and switched the machine on? Unless the courier had assumed a metagang member accidentally switched it on during the last loop, mistaking it for something harmless. But now that he thought of it, the timing of the furred horror's rescue was a bit too perfect. "You could always activate," Ryan guessed in horror. "You were just pretending." All this time. All this time, the time traveler thought he had bound the demon inside a pentagram, but it could always step over. Ryan's illusion of control shattered, his fingers trembling with dread. For centuries, he had lived at the mercy of a horror that he had called, but couldn't put down. The plushie looked at his maker with its big blue eyes, and then behind him, Ryan froze as he heard little Sarah had followed him outside. The courier's heart skipped a beat as he watched all his hopes for this loop go down the drain. And then the abyss looked away. The plushie ignored them both and gazed at Mount Augustus. It didn't enter cute mode, didn't make a sound. No pre-recorded message answered Ryan's words, neither a laser nor a switchblade shed blood all over the orphanage. The plushie didn't want to play. "You aren't going to kill anyone?" Ryan asked his dreaded creation. "Not even disembowel a psycho or two?" No answer. Ryan didn't hear the whispers either. Alien voices followed in the plushie's wake, but they had gone silent. The toy's eldritch shadow, once so fearsome, had shrunk in size by half. "You're talking to a toy," little Sarah said. "I knew you were a druggie." Not even the promise of slaughter or the presence of preteens elicited a reaction. Instead, the plushie kept glaring at Mount Augustus with its big blue eyes, the menacing aura within them replaced with sourness. Ryan reached a terrible conclusion, the maddening truth clear for all to see. By defeating the plushie so thoroughly, Lightning Butt had done the impossible. He gave it depression. Ryan knocked on Shroud's door next. His visit was a bit earlier than usual, but he sweetened the deal with a free stuffed ghoul. The psycho had gone torpid, to the point Ryan wondered if his immortality gave in. Though Ryan didn't mention time travel, he told the translucent vigilante almost everything else. Both sat on opposing chairs for an hour inside Shroud's hideout, the vigilante silent as a tomb. By the time his guest finished his tale, all windows had cracks and dawn rose on New Rome outside. Matthias Martel only said one word. "Fuck." "Pretty much," Ryan said. "I'm pretty sure the knockoffs also contain carcinogens, though I can't prove it." Shroud joined his hands, meditating on what he had learned. "Do you have a hard proof that Bloodstream makes up the knockoffs? We destroyed all our samples to prevent him from returning." "I have." Len allowed Ryan to take a drop of blood for study, which he offered to the vigilante. "Put this in contact with a Dynamese knockoff and you will see. Keep a flamethrower nearby, though." "I will need the vaccine data too," Shroud said, as he carefully examined the blood in a syringe. Even now, Ryan half expected it to burst out of its container. "If our genius confirms what you said, then we will have to come to New Rome in force." "I would rather avoid that," Ryan said. "Trust me, you will get a lot more than pigeon shit on your windshield if you do that, Maddie." The glass manipulator's armor seemed to shift, threatening to grow spikes. After a short moment of hesitation, he removed his helmet, revealing his true face. He approached Ryan's head, gazing into his eyes with absolute, chilling seriousness. From what you're telling me, Adam the Ogre, a man so terrible he was already eating people long before he gained superpowers, is within days of getting his hands on an orbital superweapon, and Dynamis infected thousands of people with the seeds of a global pandemic, Matthias Martel said. Both disasters are only possible because we failed to properly address them. Now, tell me, Quicksave. How is this not a situation that deserves our full attention? I told you I can select whichever universe I want, Ryan lied. The sun will set on New Rome if sunshine makes his way here. Lightning but will see to that. Countless innocents will die. So you say, the vigilante replied. Ryan squinted at the hero. How many times has your group fought Lightning Butt? Shroud clenched his fists. Too many times. They had tried to bring him down for years and failed. You know Mob Zeus is a heartless bastard who only cares for power and revenge, Ryan said. The memory of that madman striking sunshine down as the world collapsed around them flashed vividly in the courier's mind. He's a bitter old man dying of cancer. He has little left to lose, except for his daughter. I know that. Good. Now imagine him near this city's powder kegs. Do you think he will put aside his grievances against a greater threat, or make things worse for Leo just to spite him? Shroud's silence was an answer in itself. Ryan delivered the coup de grace. You had a plan for New Rome, but it didn't account for either Atom or Bloodstream. It didn't survive contact with the enemy, so you've got to adapt. Who do you serve, Quicksave? Matthias asked after pondering his words. Which side are you on? The realm, Ryan put a hand on his chest. And my own side. Matthias looked at him with a frown. So you're just trying to save your hide? Didn't anyone tell you I'm immortal? Ryan shrugged his shoulders. I don't want the city to burn or the world to end. Is that too much to ask? I have friends on both sides, and I want all of them to be happy. Isn't that what you want too? I want to save lives, yes, Shroud replied, hanging back in his chair. But I want to save them permanently. We tried to deal with Bloodstream in the past, only for Dynamis to lie to us so they could exploit him for profit. We killed Mecron, but his weapons remain available to even worse villains. I don't want to repeat everything in 5 years. Ryan examined him closely. You knew something like this would happen with Bloodstream. That was what he gathered from their brief interactions last loop. The vigilante nodded. My mother, Alice Martel, was once called Pythia. The Seer. Ryan never met her, though she was part of the Carnival's original lineup. She had left the group by the time they tracked Bloodstream down. My condolences. She still lives. Shroud looked away in sadness. She almost died fighting Mecron, but she's recovering in Denmark with my father. Recovering, as in rising from the dead. Nidhogg and his men haven't progressed that far yet, Mr. Safelight replied. Before she was wounded in action against Mecron, my mother provided a detailed report of future threats to the world. Though Augustus was ranked high, Bloodstream topped the list. He was expected to cause an extinction event in the case your sister died. So that was why the Carnival pursued that bloody headache so relentlessly. Unfortunately, all they did was delay the disaster and let Dynamis worsen it. Ryan shuddered upon remembering Len being absorbed into that eldritch horror. The prophecy had come true, but seers didn't decide the march of time. Ryan did. It will still happen unless we act, the courier said, but we can still change the future. We can end this nightmare once and for all if we cooperate. How? Matthias asked, skeptical. We aren't powerful enough to destroy the bunker without Leo, Mr. Wave, and others at our back. Dynamis is corrupt, so we can't rely on Ilmiglir's help either. There are other heroes in Rome, Ryan said. Let me recruit a crack team of rogues and misfits. Who knows, maybe you will find love among them. Shroud didn't put much trust in his wingmate. Even if we somehow manage to prevail on our own, saving lives isn't enough, Quicksave. Justice must be served. Augustus can't keep poisoning people, and especially not continue to exploit the Costa's daughter. He can't get away with his crimes, and neither can the Manatas. I know. After watching Lightning Butt ravage New Rome in one loop and worsen its destruction in another, Ryan had sworn to bring the immortal emperor down. And maybe he was the only one capable of doing so. But you can leave the Augusti to me. If you take care of the Bloodstream vaccine, my transparent friend, I swear I will destroy the Bliss Factory and return Julie Costa's daughter to you. Blowing up stuff is my passion in life. You can't expect Leo and the others to wait things out. There are other Mecron bases, Ryan said, the vigilante's eyes widening in alarm. The bunker below the junkyard is one of many, but I recorded their locations. Sunshine can hunt them down while we deal with the situation here in New Rome. With his legacy wiped out, we can finally exorcise Mechron's ghost for good. With luck, the Mechron base could also cause the Bahamut to self-detonate, preventing anyone else from using the orbital laser ever again. And the Manatas? Shroud asked. Hector is mad, Fallout is madder, and Blackthorn lied to us. Actually, though his fashion sense would tell otherwise, I believe our dear gardener is the cleanest of them. Ryan remembered Enrique complaining to his brother about lying to him at the end of the previous restart. Jasmine had also told the courier that the manager was supposed to manage knockoff elixirs, production, until he visited Lab 66 and left in disgust. He must have found his family's dirty secret then. Adam Smasher was too fanatical to back down, and his father too corrupt. Blackthorn, though. Ryan had mistaken the gardener for a closet supervillain, but he had his heart in the right place. Enrique was Livia's counterpart in Dynamis, a well-meaning man trying to reform his organization from the inside, but too bound by familial love to take a hard stance. They both needed to inherit for New Rome to know peace. Removing Hector Manata would be easy. Ryan only had to reveal his corruption and alliance with Hannafat Lecter. Fallout wouldn't give up power without a fight, though. Can work with Greenhand to clean up the skeletons in his company's closet, Ryan said. I think a part of him wants to take action, but he isn't sure how. If you approach him with hard data about the danger his company's miracle drug presents, he might turn his coat. I will inform Leo and Stitch about your plan, but I can't guarantee anything. Shroud marked a short pause. You said Sishak will attack Rusttown's orphanage on May 10th. Yes, and will counterattack immediately afterward. The reason why the carnival was so effective was because of my mother, Shroud said. Now I see why. After she fell ill, I tried to pick up the slack, but I cannot see the future. You can, though, quick save. It's almost unfair. Trust me, I earned that knowledge. Matthias said nothing, examining Ryan carefully. His eyes wandered to the courier's mask and hat, the vigilante's face straining. He didn't say a word for half a minute, as if trying to figure something out. Have you fallen for me? Ryan asked. Trust me, I get that all the time. How far can you go back? The courier was thankful for the mask shielding his face. Sorry, it can't all be visions of alternate timelines. You know too much with too many vivid details. Even a powerful blue like my mother would be hard-pressed to provide all the secrets you hand out like candies, and you're a violet, you know me. He was far too sharp for his own good. You don't just freeze time, Matthias guessed. You control it, you're a chronokinetic. Ryan's first instinct was to deny the truth, to mislead. Instead, he held his tongue and considered his next words. For centuries, the courier kept his cards close to his chest. His misadventures with Alchemo and so many others had taught him caution. But at one point, that caution turned into paranoia until he could trust no one. Trust was a two-way street, an open wound. Ryan only found the strength to reach out for Jasmine when all was lost, and she wagered her life on his success. Livia was a case of bad luck, but they learned to trust each other. Bianca sacrificed his life for him. Even Alchemo had made an effort to make up for his mistakes. Slowly, Ryan Romano had learned to open his heart. Though he killed the time traveler a few times before they got to know each other, Matthias Martel had his heart in the right place. He reminded Ryan of Felix, a young man burning with a strong desire to make things right. After interacting with him over so many loops, Ryan had grown to know the vigilante, even to respect him. Perhaps the courier gave away so much information because he subconsciously trusted the carnival member already. He would have been far more careful about what he said with someone else. Ryan wanted the vigilante on his side, to be a trustworthy ally rather than a means to an end. And so, he took a leap of faith. What if I were, hypothetically? Then I would assume you can't travel very far. Matthias intertwined his fingers. Do you know why we're going all in on Augustus now? We have worked down my mother's list of threats to the world. We've defeated psychos, warlords, and monsters, but we could never beat him. And now we must. Ryan tensed up. He's going to do something. At one point in the coming years, Augustus will attack Dynamis and try to take over Europe by force. He will go all out. It will be Malta all over again, except that he won't settle for anything but complete victory. And though it will cost many lives, he will get what he wants. Ryan remembered watching New Rome burn, torn apart by the Augusti and the ill Miglir Dynamis alliance. The courier thought Sunshine's presence started it, but in truth, it had only accelerated Lightning Butt's timetable. Tyrants didn't go into quiet retirement. When confronted with his inevitable death by cancer, Augustus would take a page from Big Fat Adam's book. He would try to ensure Livia would rule unopposed once he was dead and buried. by destroying Dynamis, the carnival, and anyone he could get his hands on in the little time he had left. Perhaps Lightning Butt thought he would go out in a blaze of glory, leaving his daughter as queen of the ashes. Did Livia see it in her visions? Was it why she was so adamant about managing her father so he would overreact? Since we can't defeat Augustus directly, we decided to cripple the organization, Matthias admitted. Even if he's all-powerful, he is only one man. He needs soldiers to carry out his will, drugs to fuel his war chest. If we do that, quick save, will it stop him? The vigilante's tone was hesitant, begging. He wanted to hear a yes, a confirmation that his efforts hadn't been for naught. And Ryan couldn't say yes. The time traveler had managed to affect Augustus in the previous loop, true, but his punch hurt the courier more than his foe. The Ivory Titan's retaliation tossed Ryan through a building, and he then proceeded to survive Leo Hargrave's going supernova. All of this happened after Lightning Butt trounced the plushie so hard that it sent the terrible monster into an existential crisis. Sunshine could bring down Mechron, but not Augustus. The plushie could destroy the world, but not Augustus. The extra-dimensional horror that haunted Ryan's dreams for centuries couldn't even scratch him. Darkling might have, but it had returned home. Augustus was the most powerful creature on Earth short of the ultimate ones, and Ryan had no permanent solution to bring him down yet, only a hope. I may have a way, Ryan said, to put him down for good. May, Shroud repeated, dejected. May, the time traveler admitted. I need more time. I won't let him win, I swear it. Doesn't matter how long it takes, what it will cost me. I won't let him win. It didn't reassure Matthias at all, but it broke him out of his despair. That extinction event, Adam taking over the behemoth, it happened before. Ryan hesitated, but then nodded slowly. Matthias Martel lowered his head, trembling with anger. At Dynamis, at the Metagang, but at himself most of all. I'm trying to solve this, but I can't do it alone, Ryan admitted, both to the vigilante and to himself. So, are you in? Matthias snickered, a look of determination on his face. Do you even need to ask? And so Ryan recruited another Avenger to his cause, only one left. An independent hero unaffiliated with Dynamis, whose power and purity of heart was unmatched. Half a man, half a beast, and the best of both. Ryan typed a number on his cell phone as he exited Shroud's shack, listening to the sound of waves crashing on the shore. He didn't have to wait long, as someone picked up before the courier could return to his Plymouth Fury. Yes, the voice on the other end of the line, Timmy, Ryan replied, opening the door. Henriette yapped from the backseat, while Eugene Henry napped and the plushie sulked. That is the panda's name. Poor boy, he must have waited next to his phone for hours, desperately wishing for a call. The panda can do anything, even save cats up in trees. That's your lucky day, dear bear. Ryan smiled behind his mask. Tell me, have you considered joining a traveling circus? It was May 10th. Sishak would attack the orphanage any minute now, and a rabbit had hanged himself in the kitchen. Come on, Ryan muttered to himself in consternation. The World Destroyer had used a rope rather than warm intestines, but it had scared little Sarah to death all the same. You know it won't work, right? I've tried. The plushie played dead. The courier's eyes wandered to the walls, covered in gunshots. An empty Beretta awaited on the kitchen's table, alongside knives, lens, antidepressants, and alcohol. Little Sarah had come to Ryan crying upon finding the rabbit in this state, and the time traveler couldn't blame her. That wasn't the first complaint he had received either. Another child had found the plushie in the disaffected shower room with a bucket of water, a bloody pentagram, and a jumper cable, though thankfully it didn't steal that from Ryan's car. Somehow the courier found the plushie's behavior even creepier than usual. What are you trying to achieve? Ryan asked carefully, unsure how that pattern would progress. The beast no longer reproduced in the presence of children, but no longer seemed to care about them either, which worried the courier. An orphan walked into the kitchen to find Ryan talking to a hanged rabbit. He looked at the time traveler and then at the plushie, his face as blank as a Dynamis infomercial. It makes sense in context, Ryan said. The child walked away wordlessly. Ryan looked back at the plushie's big blue eyes, trying to figure out what happened. He remembered what his elixir had told him when he briefly entered the black world. The plushie didn't understand death, so it killed others in an attempt to figure it out, or perhaps because it found it funny. But its inability to slay Lightning Butt had forced the monster to reevaluate its approach. It had decided to understand death by experiencing it. The plushie was having a suicidal phase. How long would it last? Ryan's own lasted a while and involved at least 2 plane crashes, 1 yacht, lasers, sharks, piranhas, and as it turned out, spy movies had lied to him, giraffes, drug-fueled orgies, and 1 meteorite. The courier's hand instinctively moved to the pocket where he kept his A-bomb, and Ryan sighed in relief upon finding it safely in its place. And then the plushie's ears rose up in interest. "No," Ryan said, shielding his bomb like a maiden's virginity. "No, don't you dare." The plushie's head turned to look at Ryan, glancing at his pocket. In the end, the courier left the plushie hanging from the ceiling and wisely slithered out of the kitchen. He felt the dreadful creature's gaze on his back even when he exited the room. If only the courier could pull the off switch. The realization this terrible monster had been pretending it worked all along had crushed all of Ryan's hope of containing it. He thought of all the time he put the plushie on a shelf, thinking himself safe. Even when he and Jasmine, oh gods, it had been watching all along. Ryan exited the orphanage through the front door on this terrible realization, his heart filled with dread and horror. Happy memories had suddenly turned dark and grim. "Riri," Len said, awaiting him outside in full power armor. I have something for you." She tossed him a handheld version of her water rifle, which Ryan gladly accepted. The Metagang's minibus had reached the courtyard. The courier didn't shoot at it on sight this time around, and instead waited for its passengers to step out. Mongrel, more beast than man. Mosquito, utterly anemic without the special blood juice which Ryan provided him in the last loop. And Sishak, whose mere presence infuriated the time traveler. "Hey, Sipsy," Ryan greeted the Metagang's members, while Len's fingers tensed on her rifle's trigger. "I know you won't care, but the kids here are underage. They're way too old for you." "Little Cessair," Sishak replied, Mosquito cracking his knuckles and Mongrel letting out a bestial hiss. "And is that little Len too? I could recognize her work anywhere. Is your father joining us from beyond the grave too?" Len remained as silent as a grave, and Ryan couldn't help but flinch. He already heard Sishak say those exact words before, but they hit much harder now. The telepath didn't remember the previous loop, and since he hadn't adjusted his behavior either, then Big Fat Adam was certainly alive again. Ryan would have preferred both of them buried for good, but it meant he could predict their behavior. "Not yet," Ryan replied, raising his water rifle. "I'm afraid this place is invitation only. If you take another step, I will have to show you the door face first." Sishak's tone turned vicious. "You were not so brave during our last." Ryan activated his power, shot both Mosquito and Mongrel with the water rifle in the frozen time, tossed his weapon, and grabbed a bliss inhaler hidden beneath his trench coat. "Incown!" Sipsy didn't finish his sentence, as Ryan applied the inhaler to his face and pumped his brain full of drugs. From the telepath's point of view, the courier appeared to have teleported in front of him. Giant water bubbles had captured his allies, quickly drowning them into unconsciousness. Tentacles wriggled free out of Sishak's clothes, revealing his true monstrous self, but the drug acted quicker. The telepath's limbs trashed around like beheaded snakes while he collapsed to the ground, his brain overwhelmed by bliss. Soon Sishak went limp, liquid dripping from his inhuman skull. The whole conflict had lasted half a minute. "I prefer to make my fights fun and relaxing, like smelling flowers in a park, but you're an exception," Ryan said before kicking the helpless Sishak. "You really overstayed your welcome." He was saving himself for wardrobe anyway. "That was quick," a new voice said. Ryan didn't even turn around as Shroud appeared at his side. "I see you rehearsed." "About that, Shorty, you modified the oxygen supply as I asked." Ryan pointed a finger at Mosquito, who struggled to stay conscious in the water prison. "Bugs and water don't mesh well." Yes, I did. He shouldn't get brain damage." Len glanced at Shroud, leaving the next part of her sentence unsaid. This time, the next member of Quicksave's Avengers arrived while driving a fearsome bicycle, honking to intimidate his foes. The monster of the East had come to lay waste to psychos and evildoers alike, to bathe his fur in their blood. "Is the panda on time?" Timmy said as he abruptly stopped his vehicle near the Metagang's minibus, ready for battle. "He will save the day. You're a bit late for that round, my young Pandoan," Ryan replied, patting the man-bear on the shoulder. "But you're early for the main course." "Oh, so we'll eat before defeating bad guys?" "We shall eat, yes." Ryan raised a fist to the heavens. "We shall eat villains' dreams and drink their tears." "I understand, Sifu." "What can he do?" Shroud asked, glancing at the panda with clear skepticism. He can transform into the most powerful creature on Earth, Ryan boasted on his apprentice's behalf. I thought he would be a good addition to your traveling circus. That's right, the panda nodded sheepishly. The panda doesn't have much work experience, but it would be an honor to serve with the carnival, sir. You will learn, Shroud replied with a shrug. It's not skills that make a hero, it's the heart. You can pick up the first through time and effort, the second not so much. Ryan had half expected the siliconetic to look down on the panda like Enrique did, and was pleasantly surprised. Then again, the carnival had a tremendously high rate of turnover, so they couldn't afford to turn down volunteers. The mere idea of joining this illustrious group of heroes invigorated the panda, the man-bear ready to take names and prove his worth. How many more are we waiting for? Len asked Ryan. 2 more. Ryan had considered bringing Adam Kitty to the party too, but putting him, his sister, and Livia in the same team was bound to backfire. At this point, Felix was too scornful of his family to stand them. Afterwards, drug bust and we haul everyone we catch to jail. There is no need to keep them prisoner, Shroud said while glancing at the captured metagang members. They are psychos and murderers. Nobody will blame you for putting them down. Putting them down. The panda asked, suddenly a lot less enthusiastic. We'll bring them in by the book, Ryan reassured his young pandawan. By the book? And how do you intend to imprison psychos? Shroud asked with heavy sarcasm. They have unique powers. Saren and Frank the Mad in particular will destroy any jail they're put into. Those two Ryan could turn around, and he had a solution for the rest. Not if the prison is located 20 leagues under the sea. Mr. Looking Glass immediately caught on and glanced at Shorty. Your underwater base. I cut off some of the habitats from my sanctuary, Len explained with a nod. They're self-sustaining but isolated, like in an underwater asylum. Unless they can turn into fish, the prisoners won't swim far before the pressure crushes them, Ryan said. We can try to rehabilitate people before putting them 6 feet under Glass Cowboy. Even Adam the Ogre, Shroud deadpanned. Now don't be silly. Whaley will be extradited to Monaco. With luck, the staff would appropriately eat him and call it karma. Psychos cannot be cured, the vigilante said before crossing his arms in doubt. Perhaps he had guessed Ryan had a plan to change that, though he couldn't tell just yet. Unless you can pull off a miracle. I'm not so sure either, Riri, Len said. But well, imprisonment is always better than killing. That won't change. Shroud suddenly turned invisible, much to the panda's surprise, as the sound of a new car echoed in the distance. Livia's group arrived in a platinum version of Pluto's Lamborghini driven by Cancel. Livia and Fortuna sat at the back. The former wore her Queen Crimson costume, without the helmet but with a new white cat-themed necktie. The latter used a tight, white latex catsuit that only enhanced her curvaceous form and meshed well with her golden hair. The sight of 2 genomes in fashionable costumes restored Ryan's faith in humanity. Livia Fortuna, the courier greeted his favorite ladies as they exited the car, before waving a hand at Cancel. Oh, hi, Greta. Hi, nice to meet you, the budding sociopath replied with the same cheery tone as the courier. So, whom do I kill today? That one, Cancel, Livia said while nodding at the unconscious Sishak before greeting everyone else with a warm smile. Ryan, Len, Mr. Panda. Hello. Len wasn't sure how to answer. Though Ryan couldn't see her face beneath her power armor's helmet, she probably examined Livia with mistrust. Shroud's disappearance didn't help matters. Considering he hadn't turned visible again, he must have learned of Cancel's range and stayed out of it. Why, you know the panda. Timmy hyperventilated at people recognizing him. Not before Livy told me about you, Fortuna admitted, though she couldn't resist a black and white bear's charm. I love pandas though, they're so fluffy. I had a stuffed doll of one when I was a child. The panda is very cuddly in his natural form too, the man-bear replied with a friendly nod. His fur is soft and perfumed. He's drugged out, Cancel complained as she examined Sishak. I prefer it when they see what's coming. You mean, the panda gulped, suddenly a lot less enthusiastic. You mean death? Yes, death, Greta replied as if it were obvious. People are only genuine when they die. It's only when I kill meanies that I build a real human connection with them. You should try it out sometimes. Ryan noticed the Lamborghini's windows cracking at the edge, though it was barely noticeable. He can brainwash and take over others' bodies, and getting rid of him is the only way to save his victims, Ryan told the disturbed panda. Sometimes, a hero must get his hands dirty. Well, truth be told, there were probably non-lethal ways to cure Sishak's thralls, but the time traveler didn't care about them. The brainjacker and his boss were the strongest arguments for the death penalty the courier had ever seen and would receive no mercy from him. Wait for my signal to execute him, Livia ordered Cancel. We will deal with the rest shortly. As you wish, boss, Greta replied, a hand on her waist. You're sure you don't need more backup? The neighborhood isn't safe. Fortuna will take care of me, Livia replied with a smile before glancing at Ryan. As will this shining knight. I left my armor in storage, unfortunately, Ryan replied. Let's recover it then. Cancel pulled Sishak's body in the Lamborghini and drove away afterward, but not before Livia picked up her helmet from the car's chest. The seer waited for the hitman to leave, to turn and look at an empty spot. I can see you. Shroud dropped his invisibility to Fortuna's surprise and took his anger out on Ryan. You want us to cooperate with his daughter. My father doesn't know anything about this plan, Livia replied with a cold frown. And he will not. This changes little, the vigilante stated. I do not appreciate dealing with the heir of a drug-running empire. Nor do I appreciate you dating my best friend and lying to her, the Augusti princess replied icily, the glass telekinetic flinching upon realizing that she knew his secret identity. But we all have to make compromises for the greater good. Your best friend, Fortuna scowled. Livy, you like someone more than me. Shroud seemed to suppress the urge to put a hand on his helmet, while Livia reassured the oblivious Fortuna by warmly taking her hand into her own. Of course not, she said. You are more than a friend to me, you are almost a sister. And we would have been if Felix hadn't treated you like crap, the blonde replied angrily. I swear next time I see my brother I will clout him on his thick head, Shroud crossed his arms. Why would you cooperate with us on this? The same reason as you, Livia answered. To protect this city from destruction. De-destruction, the panda asked, suddenly uneasy. About that, Livy, what are we here for? Fortuna asked her best friend. I haven't mentioned this secret mission to anyone else, not even Narcinia, but I want to know. Shroud looked at Fortuna with a hint of scorn. You came all the way here not knowing why. Well, Livy is my dearest friend, she replied confidently. If a friend needs help, you give it no questions asked. This made Shroud shut up, and he seemed to look at Fortuna with a brand new perspective. Ryan wondered if he was starting to see the good qualities in Lucky Girl, just as the courier did in a previous loop. If only she wasn't so vain, the courier might have dated her seriously. The Metagang has found a cache of Mechron weapons, Livia explained. They intend to use it to destroy New Rome, and we must stop them. For a moment, neither Fortuna nor the panda seemed to have understood what she said. The panda looked at Ryan for confirmation, while Fortuna glanced at Livia as if she were joking. Mechron, the Mechron, she asked. You're joking, right? Livy, we're in May, April is long gone. I am not joking, Fortuna, Livia replied. That is why the Metagang thought they could take our families on. Oh, Fortuna blinked a few more times before panicking. Wait, why just the two of us? We should tell your father. So he can get his hands on Mechron's weapons. Shroud asked, less than thrilled by the prospect. Better than psychos, Fortuna replied. I heard they eat people. I have seen the future, Fortuna, Livia said calmly. That technology will cause harm no matter who gets it. It has to go. If anyone but us knows, it will find its way into the wrong hands. Fortuna scratched the back of her head. You're sure about this, Livy? Livia nodded gravely, and Shroud found his tongue again. So this is a temporary alliance until the Mechron base's threat is dealt with, he stated. We agree to destroy it together, and then it's business as usual. Yes, the Augusti princess said with a nod. Afterward, we will discuss what you came to New Rome for, and see if we can reach a diplomatic solution. Ryan said nothing, trying to make these two get along on their own. Thankfully, though he was ruthless when the situation called for it, Looking Glass would prefer something else than total war. Everything rests on this mission, he said. All right, Livy, you're the one who can see the future, so I won't tell a tale. Fortuna grinned ear to ear. My power will guide us to victory. Ryan glanced at Len and the panda who had remained silent so far. So, ready to clean up the trash? This is everything the panda trained for all his life. Instead of being crushed by the weight of the situation, the man-bear had risen to the occasion. This is the moment of truth. They tried to take the children, Len said, shaking her head. They have to go before they come back. The children? Fortuna glanced at the orphanage, noticing children looking through the windows at them. Oh my gosh, and here I thought it was a dog shelter. It's both, Shroud replied before snickering. Perhaps you could offer your next lottery winnings to those who need it. That's a wonderful idea, Fortuna replied with enthusiasm, much to the translucent vigilante's surprise. By the way, have we met before? Your voice sounds familiar. Shroud's tone turned drastically deeper. It reminded Ryan of Christian Bale having a cough. Unlikely. Livia decided to switch the subject to something lighter and instead smiled at a handsome courier with a hand on her chest. Do you like this necktie more than the other one, Ryan? You are perfect, Ryan reassured her before glaring at Fortuna. Unlike the fashion disaster here, she doesn't even wear a mask. Excuse you. I have a fashionable piece to go along with my costume, thank you very much. And on these words, Fortuna put a golden domino mask on her beautiful face. Ta-da! Though the color did mesh well with her hair and clothes, Ryan wasn't impressed. Clark Kent, that mask doesn't hide anything. Of course it does. She sounded almost proud of it too, putting a hand in her hair. Look at me, look at me. It would be cruel to deny our foes the ecstasy of my beauty, especially since this would be the last thing they ever see. They'll probably go blind from the horror, Ryan deadpanned, Shroud chuckling in response. H, how dare you? Fortuna put her hands on her waist, furious. Be glad I am taken. If you had been my boyfriend, I would have made you invite me for dinner to apologize. Ryan grinned behind his mask. You are taken. I have found the one, Fortuna boasted. The perfect gentleman. Shroud looked really uncomfortable, so Ryan decided to tease him further. Do you have a photo of the victim? He asked Fortuna. Of course. Lucky Girl showed the group a photo of a sour Matthias Martel on her cell phone. The poor game designer looked as if he had been dragged in front of the camera by force. Isn't he the cutest? Oh yes, he's a very transparent person, Ryan said with a nod. You see it on his face. His eyes are a window into his soul, Livia added with a giggle, while Shroud did his best to ignore them. The panda, who didn't know better, spoke his mind. He doesn't look very happy. Because he doesn't understand we're meant to be together, but he will, Fortuna said while putting back her cell phone in one of her catsuit's pockets. It's fate. Ryan would have pitied Matthias, but better him than the courier. If the time traveler had interfered in the previous days, then that golden retriever would have targeted him instead. Time is running out, Shroud complained, while Len agreed with a nod. I have timed everything based on the information Ryan provided, Livia said. Once Greta slays Sishak, the metagang will go on high alert. It has to happen at the moment we attack the junkyard, to deny Adam the ogre time to prepare and maximize confusion in his ranks. She made the plan. Shroud asked Ryan, incensed. We did, the courier replied with a shrug. Hey, you wanted a seer, we have one. Looking Glass' dislike was clear, but he had committed to this course of action and swallowed his pride. We will destroy the metagang's base after we finish, he said. I won't take any risk of their technology ending in the wrong hands. That is the plan, Livia replied aloofly. Len will attack from the water access while we distract from the front. I will debrief you on the way to the junkyard. How far ahead have you planned? Ryan asked his former first lady. Up until we move inside, afterward things become more difficult, especially since I still can't see you. Livia put a hand on her waist, which made her look glamorous. Surprise me, quick save. Always. Leave it to me, Livy, Fortuna said with a smirk. None of these mutants are getting anywhere near you, I swear. Ryan had long pondered how to break into Mechron's mainframe, realizing it would either take an ungodly amount of loops and memorization, or an army taking huge casualties. Instead, he chose a third option, bringing in a living cheat code. From what Ryan knew of elixirs, he had assumed that Lucky Girls worked as a guardian angel, influencing events around the spoiled brat to make her happier. Perhaps it thought that Shroud would make the perfect match for Fortuna. Or more probably, making the vigilante fall in love with her would put her off the carnival's radar. The courier wondered how far yellow elixirs could see in time. Fortuna's power had limits since Ryan and other yellow genomes could counter it, but it was pretty damn powerful. The only true obstacle among the meta for Fortuna would be the land. The Terrakinetic had already slain Lucky Girl once before, so Ryan wasn't in a hurry to see it happen again, but Livia seemed to have a plan to deal with her. After this exchange, the group separated. Len dragged the captive mosquito and mongrel inside the orphanage to put them in an automated bathysphere and then move on to Mechron's bunker next. Ryan, the panda, Livia and Fortuna boarded the Plymouth Fury, while Shroud flew above them. The courier smashed the accelerator, ready to bring the fight to the metagang, and his car refused to move. After a few fruitless attempts, Ryan turned around to glare at Fortuna. Why are you looking at me like that? The oblivious blonde protested. It's not my fault if you're too poor to buy a Ferrari. You don't insult my car. Ryan raised a threatening finger at her. I've blown up cities for less. Did you? Livia and the panda asked at the same time, the former more curious than surprised. If you even ask, then you don't know me enough. Ryan glanced out of his window, looking up at Shroud. Translucent. The vigilante froze in midair. No. Yes, sit in the back. No, he repeated. Find another car. Ryan gave the vigilante the look, until he gave in. In the end, Fortuna happily sat in the backseat's middle, an angry Shroud on one side and an amused Livia on the other. A happy and determined panda sat at the front next to Ryan while he turned on the car. This time, the Plymouth Fury worked again, and Livia couldn't stop chuckling. There was no escape. Ryan drove his Plymouth Fury through dilapidated streets, while his partner in crime explained the plan in the back. He had put on the bowler hat, like a crown of pain and destruction. When Sishak dies, the bunker will go in high alert, Livia explained, checking on her phone. Cancel waited on the other side of the line to execute the metal squid. According to Ryan, Adam the Ogre explicitly ordered the land to close the bunker's entrance if intruders get too close to it. This means we have only a short time window to either take down the land or reach the base's entrance before she can close it. How long? Shroud asked, trying to disguise his voice by making it rougher. Minutes, Livia replied. How do we prevent her from noticing our approach? The vigilante was always such a downer. Her range extends for miles, I checked. The good thing about Ghoul is that, like with Lego toys, Ryan said while opening the glove box, he comes in many parts. A skeletal foot wriggled within it. Oh, I wondered where the rest of him had gone, Shroud noted from the backseat. What is this, Sifu? The panda asked, disturbed. It's like a rabbit foot, it brings luck. Ryan glanced at Fortuna in the rearview mirror. Though less than the living charm over here. Thank you for recognizing my superiority, though it is obvious, Fortuna said with smug pride. And this is disgusting. Ryan froze time and tossed the severed foot at her lap, causing Lucky Girl to scream when the clock resumed. She made a cute sound and grabbed Shroud on instinct, much to the vigilante's confusion. He seemed torn between reassuring her and annoyance. I have a hand in the trunk if you prefer it, the courier mocked the blonde. I will show you a hand, Fortuna complained before throwing the foot at the driver. She would have aimed true too, if Ryan didn't freeze time to catch the projectile. I will slap you in the face. Anyway, as long as we have her tenant's body parts in the car, the landowner won't pay attention to us. Ryan put the foot back in the glove box. She will think Sipsy picked Ghoul up and they're now returning home, at least until we crash through their front door. Livia answered with a nod. The reptilian, acid rain, Gemini, and the thralls should protect the junkyard's surface, while the rest of the gang is in standby inside their base. Sishak's execution will free his victims, the reptilian shouldn't be a problem, and I can handle acid rain. Ryan blinked. You can! Though he couldn't see her face with her helmet on, the courier was pretty sure Livia grinned in response. I can see where she teleports before she does. In the end, the life of a genome was a giant game of rock, paper, scissors. One power trumped another, forming a delicate, complex web. And then you had people like Lightning Butt, who just plain cheated at life. Gemini and the land don't have any hard counters, though, Livia said, as the group came within sight of the junkyard's walls of car piles and trash. Fortuna, Shroud, can you take care of them? Leave it to us, Livy, Fortuna replied before frowning. Now that I think of it, I should get a pseudonym too. I would have taken Diana if Felix hadn't run off, but you should choose a name that fits yourself, not others' desires, Shroud said. You're right, but I should get something that my boyfriend will like, since we'll spend our lives together, Fortuna said while checking her phone. I'll harass him with suggestions until he likes one. Ryan could tell that the boyfriend in question was strongly resisting the urge to facepalm, doubly so as the panda started offering suggestions of his own. How about Lady Luck? The man-bear proposed. The legend. I would have said almost invincible, but the last half is already taken, the courier joked at the front. Excuse you, almost invincible, Fortuna sneered arrogantly. Nobody can hurt me, I'm the world's luckiest woman. The memory of the blonde model bleeding out after Pluto shot her in the chest flashed through Ryan's mind. Only if another yellow isn't involved, Goldie, Ryan said. The land is one, and you should stay as far away from her as possible, lest you find your luck running out. That can't happen. It can, Livia said, shocking her best friend. The land is a yellow-orange psycho who can gain conceptual dominion over an area, and this control trumps yours over luck. Ryan's brief presidential term had given him insight into the meta-gang's operations and abilities. In particular, he had learned that the land could also telekinetically manipulate Earth, but her precision was inversely proportional to her range. While she was near impossible to destroy while fused to the Earth's soil, she could only create quakes in that state. However, this power combination also made the land Fortuna's natural counter. "Your power is a guardian angel," Ryan told Lucky Girl. "But like all yellow powers, it follows esoteric rules, which means it's nonsensical but with its own internal logic." "I don't get it," Fortuna said with a frown. Her boyfriend caught on, though. "Your power alters probability and events to protect you under the guise of luck," Shroud explained. "But the land has supreme spiritual control over an area. By that logic, its authority is higher than your power S in her territory." "So she can harm me?" Fortuna asked shyly, her pride replaced with doubt. She felt suddenly a lot less confident about this mission, but Livia reassured her by holding her hand. "You will live if you're—" Livia trailed off, glancing at Shroud. "Partner protects you during the battle. The land will need to take back physical form to use her full telekinesis, which will give you an opening to take her down." "A deal is a deal," Shroud said, though the main reason he ended up with Fortuna was due to her power foiling his assassination attempts. "Unlike your kind, we do not betray our alliance in the middle of a fight. If you have my back, I will have yours." "You better," Fortuna said, regaining her bravery. "If I die, I swear I will haunt you." Ryan suddenly wondered how the land and Geist's abilities would interact, and folded the idea away into a corner of his mind. Maybe the former could exorcise the latter, especially since his power anchored him to an area too. In any case, if they could take out the land, then the metagang didn't have anyone capable of bringing down Lucky Girl. With that walking four-leaf clover on their side, the battle would be as good as won. Gemini and Ink Machine would be the hardest to contain due to their abnormal physiology, followed by Frank. Ryan could take care of his former bodyguard, but he could only hope Fortuna and her long-suffering boyfriend could deal with the former too. He had also informed the panda of his power's regeneration, so he could pull his weight in the battle to come, which would start within seconds, as the Plymouth Fury finally reached the junkyard's entrance fence. The reptilian and Gemini stood watch over the entrance, with Lizard Boy's reptilian eyes squinting as the car approached. Ryan hoped for one of them to shout, "You shall not pass," and was deeply disappointed when they didn't. "Lucky Girl!" The courier kept one hand on the driver's wheel and tossed Len's water rifle at Fortuna with the other. "Aim for the eyes. Go get them," Livia encouraged her best friend, while Fortuna opened the windows with a grin. "Stop right there." The reptilian panicked, but Ryan answered by accelerating. "Stop!" Fortuna fired at the psychos with the water rifle as the car passed, not even bothering to aim. Her projectiles hit true nonetheless, trapping the reptilian in a sphere of water. The water phased through Gemini, however, the ethereal woman of light vanishing as the car approached. Her monstrous shadow chased after the Plymouth Fury, but not quickly enough to make a difference. Ryan raced through the junkyard's labyrinth of forking trash walls and twisted turns. He still carried the reflexes from his first suicide run and experienced an impression of déjà vu. Someone should sound the alarm in 5, 4. "Now," Livia said, typing on her phone. No bell raised the alarm. Cancel must have executed Sishak on the spot, freeing the thralls and sowing confusion into the ranks. Ryan didn't understand how much until they reached the bunker's entrance without the land stopping them. Acid rain guarded the tunnel leading beneath the junkyard, and instantly summoned her toxic clouds above their hands. "Thieves!" she shouted at the Plymouth Fury's sight, her face twisted into an expression of frothing fury as she drew 2 knives. "Thieves at the gates!" Fortuna opened fire at her with the water rifle, but the land seemed to have finally noticed the intrusion. The junkyard trembled as an earthquake shook its foundations, tossing trash and collapsing car walls. A golden shroud became visible around Fortuna, like an angel's halo. A similar glow surrounded her bubble projectile, but flickered in and out of sight. Acid rain managed to dodge the attack, just as the land's invisible pressure overwhelmed Ryan's crew. It felt like being out in the woods, stalked by a wolf pack. The courier abruptly stopped the car near the bunker's entrance. "Go, go, go," he shouted, all but leaping out of the vehicle. "Why, yes." The panda opened his door and transformed as soon as he could, while Livia stepped out more calmly. Shroud attempted to open his car's door to fly into the fray, but the lock refused to move. He grumbled at Fortuna as he carried her in his hands like a bride through the opposing door. Good thing he did too, as acid rain's toxic raindrops fell from the skies while the land caused a nearby trash wall to collapse near the Plymouth Fury. Ryan, Livia, and the panda quickly moved out of the way, while the flying Shroud carried his beloved above the ground Superman style. Acid rain's raindrops miraculously dropped where he was. The Plymouth Fury wasn't so lucky, though. "My car!" Ryan screamed in horror as piles of trash entombed his beautiful companion. "You killed my car!" Again, did the Metagang have a vendetta against Chrysler? "Fortuna, give me the rifle!" Livia shouted at Fortuna, who tossed the water weapon at her best friend. No sooner did the Augusti princess catch it that acid rain teleported behind her, knives raised. The panda attempted to pounce on her, but wouldn't reach her in time. So Ryan stopped it. "Sorry, Helen," the courier said, as he put on the Fisty Brothers and quickly activated his time stop. Acid Rain's eyes widened upon hearing her real name, but she teleported out of range before the clock could freeze. The courier quickly grabbed the paralyzed Livia and moved her out of the way, in case the teleporter flanked her again. Acid Rain reappeared the second time resumed, her weapons lunging for Ryan's throat. "You piece of shit," she snarled, as a shiver went down the courier's spine. "I'll gut you like a—" Time skipped forward. When Ryan regained consciousness, he found himself a few steps away from his starting location, and Acid Rain's knife stabbed the transformed panda's arm. Though her blade cut deep, it didn't do much to slow down a 700-kilo behemoth. Acid Rain herself barely had the time to blink as Livia pulled the water rifle's trigger, the Augusti princess having positioned herself right behind the teleporter. A sphere of water swallowed Helen, and when she attempted to teleport away atop a hill of junk, the prison followed her. Acid Rain covered her mouth in an attempt to hold her breath, as she and the bubble rolled down the trash pile. It had been too late to save Ryan's bowler hat, though. Acid raindrops had wormed a hole in it and slightly damaged Livia's suit. "She tried to stab you," the Augusti princess said while the panda removed the knife in his arm. Livia's secondary power allowed her to skip time forward, creating an anomaly where everyone followed their predestined actions like sleepwalkers while she could adjust her own. Ryan, though, couldn't be interacted with in that state. "The blade phased through you. How did she behave in the erase time?" Ryan asked, glancing at a flying Shroud and Fortuna. The land seemed to have singled them out as the real danger, trying to bury them beneath debris to no avail. "She teleported away when I activated my power, but since I can predict her actions with my blue power, I simply had to wait for her to reappear." Livia rushed at the bunker's entrance tunnel, which the land had started collapsing with a quake. "And now we must act. Pandawin, with me?" Ryan shouted at his sidekick, while shouting one last observation to Lucky Girl in Looking Glass. "Windshield, the land controls the land. I don't think her power affects people in the air." "I wasn't gonna let her go anyway," the glass manipulator replied. He looked truly dashing, holding his girlfriend like a bride before the altar. He would soon have to walk the talk too, as Ryan noticed Gemini's shadow slither into the junkyard's center. Fortuna didn't seem to like it one bit, though. "I know how you feel," she told her masked beau, her arms around his neck. "You fell for me at first sight. Don't worry, I get that all the time." "That couldn't be farther from the truth," Shroud replied with heavy sarcasm, gathering a cloud of glass shards from the trash walls to throw at Gemini. "I get that all the time," his oblivious girlfriend repeated, deaf to both sarcasm and common sense. "The sight of me dazzled you because you are poor and your life is meaningless. But though you have that dark, mysterious charm, it cannot be. I am not the kind of girl that cheats on her boyfriend with the first mysterious stranger." "That shouldn't be a problem," Ryan heard Shroud deadpan back, before the courier entered the tunnel with the transformed panda rushing at his heels. Ryan hoped they could manage the land and Gemini, but Livia didn't seem worried. She must have seen them prevail in her visions. In any case, the courier's group quickly arrived in front of the bunker's blast door, while the earth walls around them threatened to collapse. A pack of Dynami's dog drones immediately ambushed them. "Spring roll attack." The panda shouted as he outpaced his teammates and pounded on the robots like a rolling boulder, flattening one of the machines. Two others attempted to flank Livia and rushed at her with iron jaws. "Heavier caliber?" Ryan asked Livia before tossing her his coil gun. His accomplice grabbed the weapon in her right hand while holding her water rifle with the other. Though she was no talented marksman, she shot one drone with precision, blowing off its head. Most probably her power helped with aiming. The other machine was within an inch of closing its iron jaws around Livia's neck, but Ryan froze time and punched it with fisty. The blow sent the metal hound crashing against a wall when time resumed. Individually, their abilities were powerful, but together, they were invincible. The sheer synergy had turned this whole raid's difficulty from hard to easy. "We should strongly consider taking over the world with our combined powers," Ryan told Livia. "None shall stand in our way." "Which of us gets America?" the Mafia princess asked a hard question. "I take the South, you take the North. Or we marry and we share everything." He couldn't help himself but flirt with ladies mid-battle. To his surprise, Livia teased him back. "Only if you conquer France for our honeymoon." The panda, who had summarily crushed the remaining drones while screaming his attacks' names, looked at the duo in horror. "Sifu, you aren't considering turning to the dark side?" "Nah, it's purely hypothetical," Ryan reassured him while the trio crossed the blast door, the tunnel collapsing behind them. The land had closed the bunker's entrance for now, trapping them inside. "Unless," Livia left her sentence hanging, looking at Ryan. He immediately caught on. Unless they tried in another loop. Ryan had worried bringing in more people through loops would limit his options, but a time-traveling buddy opened so many possibilities. "You know what, how about we take some holiday time after we finish work?" It had been a while since he had gone on a vacation loop, but it would be perfect to de-stress after all these doomsday scenarios. "I will show you places you can't even imagine." "That would be fun," Livia replied with a warm, delightful chuckle. The seer seemed to enjoy this raid as much as the one on Star Studio, and somehow her good mood only reinforced Ryan's. "Though we should find a team name." "Crimson World," Ryan happily suggested. "Two violets do not make a red, Ryan," Livia giggled in return, as they crossed the metal corridor leading towards the recreational area. The invisible pressure of the land's power vanished, either because Looking Glass managed to force her to manifest or because her power's range stopped at the bunker's entrance. "How about Lady and Knight? Crimson Queen and Purple World? Are you two together?" the panda asked, unable to suppress his curiosity. "You look so cute, it makes me fuzzy inside." "Not yet," Ryan joked, before glancing at the reinforced windows on both sides of the path. The area had fallen into complete chaos, with Sishak's thralls having collapsed unconscious after their brainwasher's demise. Most importantly, Shorty had risen from the bunker's sea access in full power armor and took the psychos by surprise. Ryan noticed a few familiar faces like Pale Guy and Fuckface trapped in water spheres, but his best friend struggled with Rakshasa and Ink Machine. The former summoned gremlins faster than the underwater genius could trap them in water bubbles, while the latter harassed her in close combat, stretching her liquid limbs into axes. "No, not yet," Livia said, her tone changing from teasing to serious. "She can handle them, Ryan. But only if we take down Adam and Frank quickly enough, or else there will be casualties." The courier nodded. Though this loop was a test run for the final bunker raid, he couldn't let any innocents die if he could help it. Ryan's thoughts turned to what he would do after New Rome. He came to this city expecting to either return to wandering the earth if he couldn't find Shorty, or settle down with her if he did. In the end, while he and Len reconciled, they couldn't return to the happy, blissful romance they once shared. The wheel of time had turned. They would remain close family, but no more than brother and sister. Ryan was happy with it, but he wondered if he would stay with Len and the orphans after solving the crisis in New Rome. Adventure was in his blood, and he yearned for new experiences. At one point, the courier had found a lively partner in Jasmine, who shared his sensibilities, but she was gone. For the first time in a long while, Ryan wondered what he wanted to do with his life, now that he had friends who could remember him. And he had the intuition Livia was the key to figuring it out. But these questions could wait for later. The trio rushed into the recreational area, finding the atrium deserted. Though the Street Fighter's arcade game was mercifully intact, alongside the bar, no group of psychos barred the group's path. Perhaps Shorty had already dealt with the main defenders, or some had perished trying to access the bunker. The moment of respite lasted until the elevator's door opened, and a colossal figure with carbon skin walked into the atrium. "I am sorry," Big Fat Adam said as he walked out of the elevator, with Sarin and Frank in tow. He carried some strange, coiled cannon in hands, probably salvaged from Mechron's armory. That is not an exit. Indeed, Fatus, Ryan replied, Livia taking position at his side while the panda let out a fearsome roar. This time, Hannafat Lecter had nowhere to run. Ryan went straight for the killing blow. CIA! His hand moved inside his trench coat and brought out a fake badge he had prepared for this day. Arrest this man! The Senate impeached High! Adam didn't let him finish and instead pressed his cannon's trigger. A black sphere came out of it, forcing Ryan's group to disperse. The courier instinctively dived down towards the Street Fighter's arcade game, desperate to protect it, while Livia and them moved to the other side. Though the cannon's black projectile moved slowly, it shredded the bunker's metal walls like paper, absorbing anything in its path like a tiny black hole. Ryan briefly mistook it for a black flux weapon, but on a closer look, the projectile simply pulled things towards itself. A gravity gun. Did it have something to do with Dynami's secret weapon to deal with Augustus? Food for thought. Sarin immediately followed her boss lead, unleashing a shockwave at Livia. The seer saw the attack coming before the psycho even pulled the trigger and stepped out of the way. They let out a fearsome roar and charged at Big Fat Adam, claws extended. See? Ryan looked at Frank while waving his badge, who was slightly confused. He doesn't respect the democratic process. But to his surprise, Big Fat Adam happily played along. See, that's what I told you, Frank, Hannafat Lecter said with joviality, before backhanding the so hard the man-bear tumbled backward. The storm is here. The CIA is taking over, trying to kill me as they did with Kennedy. They slew my vice president like they're going to kill all the senators. They won't get to you, Mr. President, Frank swore, his fists raised so high that they hit the ceiling. The White House will not fall. You have to protect democracy, Frank. Big Fat Adam continued to brainwash his bodyguard with a sinister, televangelist smile. If you fail, all is lost. Frank let out a roar of rage, grabbed the recreational area's bar counter, and threw it at the poor man-bear couldn't dodge, the heavy projectile exploding on contact. Though it didn't kill the 700 kilos bear, it stopped him dead on his tracks and allowed Frank the Mad to bull rush him. The whole atrium shook with every step of the Iron Giant. The fat ass had anticipated someone might use Frank's delusion against him and prepped him up accordingly. That damn, cunning, bloody bastard. You know, of all the foes I've fought in my long life, you're probably one of the most dangerous, Ryan confessed to Adam. Augustus was far more powerful, but Hannafat Lecter more than compensated in cunning and sheer depravity. And that's really saying something. What can I say, mate? If a man is a man, he knows what he wants and gets it. And what I want, he raised his gravity cannon at Ryan, is to make you squirm. Ryan stopped time, the projectile stopping in midair. Good, a black flux weapon would have still worked. Speaking of black flux, Ryan rushed at the false president to introduce him to his minority's rights. Tossing his false CIA badge aside, the courier punched the cannibal in his stomach. Having managed to rattle Augustus in the previous loop, Ryan expected to inflict some damage. Big Fat Adam's carbon skin was way less resistant than Lightning Butt's body, as the latter tore through the former like butter. The ogre didn't even flinch. If anything, the blow seemed to damage Fisty's pistons more than the Metagang's leader. Why? Why didn't it work? Had his encounter with Lightning Butt been a fluke? Had Ryan only managed to hurt Augustus because the plushie softened him up first? Unless Ryan needed to focus his powers first. The courier could only produce visible black flux particles while wearing the power armor, after all. I need the Saturn armor to use that power, Ryan muttered to himself, right before time resumed. Hannafat Lecter's projectile demolished the Street Fighter's game, much to the courier's dismay. The arcade! This was it. If his Plymouth Fury getting drowned in garbage hadn't ruined this run, that tragedy did. You tell me, mate, Big Fat Adam replied, wielding his cannon with one hand and trying to smash Ryan with his other fist. He didn't have time to do much, as a coil gun shot him in the left eye, blowing it up in a brief shower of blood. Arg. Ryan took the opportunity to leap back to safety, glancing at his savior. Thanks, I guess the two of you didn't see eye to eye. Oh, right, I'm supposed to quip, Livia said, wielding the coil gun and aiming to finish Big Fat Adam's bullet surgery. Anyone in favor of safety glasses, say aye, Ryan groaned, but forgave her weak punfu. She fired another projectile at One-Eye Adam, but he protected his face with his hand. The bullet bounced off his carbon skin, though it pushed his palm back slightly. Sarin, he snarled, trying to wipe the blood off his face. "Kill that one!" Sarin unleashed a shockwave at Livia. Though she failed to hit the Augusti princess, her assault forced Livia to fall back to behind the ruins of the bar counter. The wasn't in a better position, the much bigger Frank having tossed him against one of the atrium's walls. Hazmat Girl turned at Ryan to blast him, and the courier decided to use his secret weapon. "Bianca," Sarin froze in place. "Your boss isn't working to find a cure, but I am," Ryan pleaded, a hand extended. "We can make you human again." She unleashed a shockwave, and he dodged by leaping to the side. "Are you a blue or some shit?" Sarin asked angrily. "A telepath reading my brain? You've got air for neurons, how could I read it?" Ryan asked, though all it did was infuriate the psycho. "You must have seen it too. He's throwing you at this base's orbital command center, not at the Elixir labs. He's distracting you," Adam said after wiping off the blood from his face. His only remaining eye glared with malevolence as he raised his gravity gun at Livia's hiding spot. "Don't listen and power through." "It's true," Livia said from her hiding spot. "Ryan." Realizing her intention, Ryan rushed at Sarin, just as a chill went due. Time skipped forward a few seconds, and when it resumed, Ryan had slammed Sarin to the ground. Holes had appeared where Livia used to hide, and where Hannafat Lecter's remaining eye should have been. The cannibal screamed in pain, while Livia kept hitting his head with bullets. The had managed to free himself from Frank's grasp by returning to human form, and then shifting back into the powerful animal. "Look outside, we aren't here to kill anyone," Ryan told Sarin before adding a caveat. "Except Sipsy and your boss, but their asses, the rest of you we will cure." "Shut the hell up." Sarin's gauntlets vibrated and she aimed for the courier's head. A shockwave hit the ceiling, causing concrete and pipes to fall in the middle of the room. "Think wisely, Bianca. You've been with him for years, and what does he have to show for it? Nothing. He doesn't want to save anyone, and deep down you know it too. You think you will be able to return to a normal life as long as he's around. What chance is there to turn my life around at all?" she snarled, managing to kick him off her. Both rose back to their feet, with Hazmat Girl threatening to blast Ryan again. "Why would you care?" "Because you don't deserve this," he argued, dodging another volley. "You don't deserve to be trapped in that suit, unable to touch, to smell, to taste. You made a mistake when you took these elixirs, and you've paid for it ever since." "You don't know what it feels to be me, jackass," Sarin snarled back. "I don't know how you can read my memories, but fuck off from them." She pointed her gauntlets at the ground to increase the size of her jumps, soaring above the room until she almost reached the ceiling. She bombarded Ryan from above with repeated short blasts, but the courier dodged each one. "I don't want to hurt you, Bianca," Ryan pleaded, showing one of the guns he kept in his trench coat. "I could breach your suit with a bullet in my sleep." "As if I would." Ryan grabbed a weapon and shot her so fast that she couldn't even finish her sentence. The bullet grazed her mask, right near the point where it combined with the rest of the suit. This time, when Sarin landed on the ground, she didn't immediately attack. She touched her mask and gazed silently at Ryan. "It's over for him," the courier said, glancing at Adam. "But not for you. You can still survive this." "You don't know me," she said, "and you don't know him either." "Oh, I do, and that's why he will die, but it's not too late for you." "Are you a white knight or some self-help shitstain?" Sarin let out a hiss of disgust. "Why should I even trust you?" The courier answered by tossing the Fisty brothers and his gun to the ground. Sarin flinched in response, perhaps expecting a trick, but all Ryan did was to raise his arms and put himself at her mercy. "Bianca," he said, "I'm your last chance. Your last chance at turning your life around. Don't waste it." "I won't," Sarin replied, pointing her hands at his head. "I won't waste the chance to wipe off that thick skull of yours. You may slay me, but I have at my back a force you cannot hope to defeat," Ryan bluffed. "You've been on the losing side long enough. You would rather die as Sarin, or live as Bianca." Sarin raised her vibrating gauntlets and hesitated. Her hands looked within an inch of opening fire, and her gas mask was as impenetrable as ever. Yet she didn't attack. Ryan's words had planted the seed of doubt in her mind, and now she didn't know what to think. Meanwhile, Livia ran out of bullets, tossing the coil gun aside. "Head trauma, Ryan," she shouted at the courier. Big fat Adam had dropped his gravity gun, and the Augusti's projectiles had slowly pushed him against the elevator's doors. "His power only protects his skin, but not the organs beneath. If we keep hitting his head, he'll get a concussion and bleed internally." "You're Augustus, girl," Big fat Adam rasped angrily, trying to detect her by sound. When he did, he lunged at her with nightmarish speed, mouth opened and hands raised. The blood flowing from his eyes made him look like a ghoul rising from the dead to devour the living. "I'll send you back to your old man in pieces." Leaving Saren to mull over her doubts, Ryan activated his power, caught Livia in the frozen time and pulled her out of the way. Big Fat Adam's sharp teeth closed on nothing but air, and Lightning Butt's daughter instinctively grabbed the courier by the arm. "You should stop doing that, princess," Ryan teased her, her fingers holding him by the sleeve. "People will talk." "Let them," Livia replied playfully. "You may rescue me as many times as you like, Mr. President." Frank tossed the wounded aside and moved towards Livia and Ryan. "I'm coming." Instead of running away, Livia faced the Titan and said 2 words. "Stop, Vladimir." For a moment, Ryan thought he had misheard, and so did Frank. The giant flinched as if he had been stabbed in the heart. "Your true name is Vladimir Khabarov," Livia continued. "Not Frank." As Sipsy had said in a previous loop, Frank the Mad was no American. He was Russian. "This is communist propaganda." Frank snarled, covering his head with his hand as if he could block Livia's voice. "I was born in Arkansas, like country music. Your family farm wasn't in Arkansas." Since Livia couldn't hit the giant physically, she targeted his fragile mind. "It was in Novgorod. Your father wasn't a cowboy but a Soviet, and he perished choking on stolen caviar." "Lies," Frank snarled while raising his fist. He attempted to squash Ryan and Livia like bugs, but the courier froze time to move out of the way. The giant's fist hit the floor, going through it like steel through paper. Saren chose this moment to pick a side. She blasted the ground below Frank, part of the floor collapsing below the giant's weight. The self-hating colossus fell down the whole halfway, with only his torso sticking up. He attempted to raise himself up to no avail. "Sifu, get down." Ryan turned around to see that Big Fat Adam had recovered and tried to flank him. The blinded madman must have detected them by listening to their exchange with Frank. Suffering from his cooldown, Ryan attempted to back away, but Livia held him by the sleeve. Instead, his bloodied Pandoan tackled the ogre before he could get anywhere near his master. The two brawled for a second, but the more experienced Adam quickly grabbed the bear's hands with his own. The psycho opened his mouth to reveal a syringe full of swirling liquid, an elixir, but not a Mecron-made one. This was the same blue elixir the cannibal had attempted to turn Ryan into a psycho with after blowing New Rome to Kingdom Come. And true to his sick obsessions, Adam spat it at his foe. The courier barely had the time to blink in horror as the elixir shattered on the panda's face. Blue liquid splattered on the panda's soft fur, and though true elixirs couldn't bond to animals, that one must have detected the human beneath. The green genome switching back and forth between his 2 forms as his body absorbed the liquid. Big Fat Adam pushed his victim backward to fall on his back with cruel glee, while Ryan held his breath in horror. "I got one of you," Hannafat Lecter gloated triumphantly. "Indeed you did," Livia replied with smug calmness. Her tone surprised Ryan. Why didn't Livia seem concerned? Why didn't she fall back? Unless she had seen this event in a vision and let it happen. Why? Only when the settled back in his animal form did Ryan understand. His body had completely absorbed the blue elixir, the syringe's shards crushed beneath his mighty feet. Instead of madness, the monster of the East moved with focus and purpose and strength. Out of all the millions of people living in New Rome. "No way." Saren whispered with shock and jealousy as the man-bear took a step towards Adam. The cannibal heard him coming, but he had guessed what happened from the sound. The realization had left him too shocked to move. Livia had predicted she and her father could take 2 elixirs with no ill effect. And when the panda's eyes shone with a blue hue, Ryan felt a moment of religious awe. A Gregorian song echoed at the back of his mind, and he could almost see holy light shining into the bunker. For God existed, and he had fur. The launched himself in the air, his right leg and arms extended, the left knee folded. How could a giant bear fly like this? Ryan would never understand, but he did. Perhaps Big Fat Adam might have dodged if he still had eyes, or maybe he would have been paralyzed in awe too. The shouted his attack's name with his cute, amusing voice. Soaring panda. How could something so ridiculous look so good? The panda's feet hit Hannafat Lecter's head with so much strength that Ryan heard a loud crack as both connected. The monstrous psycho flew backward and crashed on the ruins of the arcade, while the victorious bear gracefully landed on his feet. His pose reminded the courier of a Bruce Lee movie, and perhaps it came straight from it. As for Adam the ogre, he did not rise up again. And hopefully, he never would. Frank, who had observed the scene with horror, attempted to free himself to no avail. His body absorbed the metal within the floor, trapping him further like quicksand. "It's over, Frank," Sarin said, vibrating hands pointed at his head. "Don't make me blast you. I must fight the communists' infiltrators," he shouted. And Ryan answered, "No, Frank, you are the communists." And then Frank was a zombie, or he might as well have been, for Ryan's words were the coup de grace. The giant looked at his chest, scratching at it as if he could exorcise the Marxist-Leninist evil that infected him. But when he couldn't, he slammed his head against the floor and mentally shut down. Perhaps his suppressed memories had resurfaced, flooding his brain just as Livia had expected. His false patriotism shattered. The once-proud giant had become an immobile pile of scrap. The courier observed him in a minute of respect as he watched this proud giant, this loyal bodyguard that perished protecting presidents so many times, reduced to such a pitiful state. "How did you know about Frank's past?" Ryan asked Livia, as Sarin lowered her gauntlets, still on her guard. "I looked for a future where I won the fight," the mafia princess replied not so smugly. "Your power is almost as busted as your best friend S. Says the pot calling the kettle black," Livia chuckled. "Speaking of best friends, ours should be done now." "I got one, Sifu," the said triumphantly, sitting atop a crushed big fat Adam's stomach. "I got one." The circle was complete. When Ryan met him, the had been the disciple. Now he was a master. The battle for the junkyard ended in a complete, near-flawless victory. The only loss on Ryan's side was his car, which had been wounded in action, though the chronoradio and key functions had survived the land's attack, so the time traveler could always repair it. The group had gathered the psychos in the bunker's hangar. With Sarin and the helping Len move the unconscious metagang members into bathyspheres. They would transport the psychos to underwater jails until Ryan could figure out a cure for their condition. Sishak's thralls would also be kept there to receive medical attention and avoid the bunker's secret from spreading yet. They would be released once the base was destroyed. As for Big Fat Adam, Len insisted on bubbling him too. Unlike the other prisoners, though, he drowned to death in it, waking up just long enough to understand he was about to die. Communists could never make a good product, especially for people who tried to attack orphans under their care. As for Fortuna and Shroud, they had both walked inside the bunker without a mask and arm in arm. The former looked giddy, the latter as if he wished to die inside. "You won't believe it," Fortuna announced. Matthias is the Shroud." "No way," Ryan replied with a falsely surprised tone. "Your boyfriend." "My boyfriend," Fortuna squealed, though her companion looked more resigned than anything else. "I would never have guessed." "I knew he wasn't all that clear," Ryan said. "How did it happen?" Livia asked, half curious, half displeased. "The land took back physical form to fight us at full power, as you suspected," Shroud answered with a sigh. "A rock hit my mask while I was holding Fortuna and it shattered. It must have looked very dramatic." "How unlucky of you," Ryan put salt on the wound. "All along I wondered why you were always there when I had a problem, but now I understand." Fortuna put a hand on her boyfriend's shoulder. "You were watching over me like a guardian angel." "How romantic." "That couldn't be farther from the truth," Matthias replied, though he sounded a bit more ashamed than usual. "You don't need to be mean, I know you care now," Fortuna said with a foxy grin. A flash of flustered embarrassment passed on her boyfriend's face, which he immediately suppressed with a stoic face. "I trapped the land inside a glass prison outside, while Gemini surrendered after she realized all was lost," he said, before glancing at Sarin. "Why is she still running around?" "She turned her coat the right way," Ryan replied. "She will be very important later." Matthias' eyes squinted at the courier and the augusty woman at his side. "After we put the metagang in custody, we will need to talk about this place's future and yours most of all." "Have you told Sunshine about us?" Ryan asked, while Livia bristled. "Not yet," Shroudy Matt admitted. "I wasn't sure if my hypothesis was correct, but after seeing this place, now I am. And I have enough questions for a lifetime." "They will wait after your girlfriend S," Ryan mocked him. "Yes, indeed," said Lucky Girl. "I want to know everything. How long have you been a hero? Are you on a team? Do you have a sidekick?" Matthias sighed as Fortuna dragged him away, though Ryan noticed he didn't struggle as much as he should. "They remind me of a tree and moss," the courier told Livia. "She's growing on him and he's starting to like it." "He will have to come clean to her, though," Livia said icily. "Or I will tell the truth for him. Fortuna deserves that much." Probably, but Ryan doubted Lucky Girl's power would work so hard to set them together if it wouldn't make her happy in the end. You look concerned, Ryan, Livia said with a frown. Is something the matter? Yes. The bunker is ours with no strings attached. We caught Adam before he could pull off his plans. Nobody I liked has died so far, and the panda has 2 powers. He emphasized these last words because he could hardly believe it himself. Everything went well, Livia chuckled. Ryan, that's good news. I'm just expecting for the other shoe to drop, the courier replied. Why would it? She asked. We worked hard and it paid off. The previous loop ended in disaster, but we learned from it and acted accordingly. Such a sweet word to hear. Though there was so much left to do, Ryan no longer carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. He had people willing to back him up now, for better or worse. What comes next? Livia asked. Now that Adam has been dealt with, we should prepare for what comes afterward. I will infiltrate your family, Ryan said. Brief Alchemo Len and Sarin on the memory map front. See how to deal with Dynamis for good. Contact Vulcan to recreate the Saturn armor. See with the Carnival how we can deal with the bunker, Narcinia, and the Bliss factory. Research the psycho cure and probably plan a trip to Antarctica. Antarctica? It's a long story. Well, we will discuss how to deal with the Carnival together. I already started doing simulations, but you are our ace in the hole. Livia smiled at him. You will meet with Jamie tonight to infiltrate my family from the bottom. Yes, I put him on a list. He hadn't interacted with Jamie, Kai-Young, and Lenka for many loops, and he yearned to meet with them again. Now that he could theoretically bring a limitless number of people into his loops, he was no longer afraid of trying to befriend others for the long term. But I meant something else for the infiltration phase. Livia raised an eyebrow. Oh, there's something I've been meaning to ask you, but I've been hesitating for a while. Because, Ryan gathered his breath. Because if I do, I can't take it back. It will be complicated and it may not work, but if it does. He left the sentence hanging, watching as Livia's breathing shortened. She must have guessed his intentions, but since she couldn't predict him, she felt anxiety rather than serenity. If he hadn't misread all the signals she had sent him in this loop and the previous one, the seer wanted Ryan to make a move, but was afraid of the shame she would face if she had guessed wrong. Ask away, she said shyly. Livia. Ryan grabbed her by the waist and pulled her closer. Though she gasped in surprise, being unable to predict the gesture, Livia didn't resist. She felt light as a feather in his arms, a fragile porcelain doll. He ignored all the gazes his teammates sent him, focusing entirely on her blue eyes and the pinkish blush spreading on her cheeks. Are you available tomorrow night? Sorry, I can't do that. Ryan scratched Eugene Henry's back while watching Dr. Tyranno on his computer screen. The A-bomb laid on the desk, right next to the late Fat Adams gravity cannon. You're saying no to unlimited fundings, resources, and safety from the monster you keep bottled up in your lab when he inevitably breaks out, because you know he will. I don't know how you managed to learn that much about my work, Tyranno admitted, a little disturbed. But I am contractually bound to Dynamis for the next 200 years. I can't even leave the building without a heavy escort. 200 years. Were there other time travelers running around in Italy? Is that even legal? In New Rome, it is. Ryan massaged his temples at his wit's end. Think, Tyranno, think. You're using an unstable product to turn people you know into time bombs. What will you have after everyone has turned into a bloodstream clone? Dr. Tyranno remained silent for a moment, but Ryan guessed his answer before he even spoke. Dinosaurs, the scaly answered. I'd still have dinosaurs. That made Ryan think more than it should. Still, the fact Tyranno wouldn't leave the Dynamis HQ nor agree to sabotage the knockoff supply dashed a few of the courier's hopes. Even if the Carnival developed a vaccine plague to cure New Rome's population, they would have to assault Lab 66 again to finish off Bloodstream for good. Still, Ryan didn't give up on the Saurian genius. What if I told you we have access to a completely safe knockoff variant, so strong it even works with robots? The courier tempted him. That we have not one, but 2 genomes with multiple powers and no side effects to study. That we possess a wealth of research and information on elixirs, and a lab capable of creating life from scratch. Then he delivered the coup de grace. Inhuman life. Tyranno's slitted eyes expanded like a frog's, to Ryan's shock. The courier wondered if it was what passed for arousal for humanoid dinosaurs. To hook him further, the courier forwarded the genius a sample of his elixir research, including a bioscan of mongrel. We're working on a cure for the psycho condition, Ryan said. Though you're contractually obligated to work with Dynamis, certainly you can sacrifice some of your precious time for it. Who knows, maybe you could make a green knockoff capable of granting your dearest, cold-blooded wish. The genius barely took a glance at the data before raising his white flag. Where do I sign? First, Ryan scratched Eugene Henry behind the ears. You must give me access to that folder. Oh, that one? Dr. Tyranno seemed strangely embarrassed about it. It's something of a side project and early results weren't promising, but it will change the world, you'll see. I'll keep an open mind, Ryan said, as he received an email called Monster Girl Project. He opened the video file within. The courier instantly regretted it as an abomination came into view. The screams and moans that came out of this thing startled Ryan so much that he almost fell from his chair. His terrified cat leaped out of his lap to take over the nearby bed. Oh God, oh God. Ryan covered his mouth, though he couldn't tell if it was in horror or terrible awe at the man's demented genius. There were things that could still surprise him after 8 centuries of time traveling. Why? A creative spur, Tyranno explained as if it made up for this crime against nature. I couldn't do that to a reptile. Why a mink? Ryan asked, closing the video feed when he couldn't take the abomination's screams anymore. Is that thing still alive? No, it died, unfortunately, Tyranno reassured him. But I have a spare. Ryan resisted the urge to throw up and stopped the video call feed. He would have nightmares for years to come. Even the most depraved Sonic the Hedgehog fans didn't go as far as Dr. Scaly did. The courier took a moment to gather his breath, only to suddenly hold it. 2 long ears rose from the side of the desk, a monster rising from the depths of hell. No, Ryan said with false panic. The plushie looked at his maker, then at the A-bomb, and finally back at his maker. Meanwhile, Eugene Henry ignored them all to vanish beneath the bedsheets, considering the matter beneath his kingly notice. No, Ryan forbade the plushie, and for the first time since this loop began, the furred fiend answered. I will always be your friend. This plushie hastily pushed the A-bomb's button with a loud click. Nothing happened. The plushie hit it again, and again, and again in quick succession, growing more and more frustrated. Its eyes turned red as it glared angrily at Ryan. It's a prop, the courier replied with a grin. I gave the real one to Vulcan. He had bribed his favorite dwarf genius with so much technology that she didn't even ask him to ruin Star Studios this time. Vulcan insisted that Ryan become her assistant instead and wouldn't take no for an answer. The courier was more than willing to help her, but only in short bursts. Though Ryan could now interact with Vulcan without feeling stabbed in the gut every time she opened her mouth, the shadow of his Jasmine remained ever present. The courier also intended to use this loop to deal with the Bliss Factory and Narcinia, and so would rather stay a contractor working for multiple branches of the Augustes organization. The plushie's eyes turned blue in disappointment, so Ryan tossed at the gravity cannon. Here if you want to work your way up the suicide chain, he said. Aim for the heart, though. There's a chance you might live if you go for the head, I know from experience. The eldritch horror examined the cannon curiously, though the weapon was 10 times larger than it was. Please don't kill anyone else, Ryan pleaded as he left the fiend to its experiments, rising from his seat to move to his door. So, Shroud asked, having waited for him in the next corridor. He had managed to repair his glass mask, though Ryan wondered why he bothered to hide his true face anymore. He won't help sabotage the tomato juice factory, Ryan replied with disappointment. He fears his boss's wrath more than ours. If the courier was on a meta run, he might have changed that, but Ryan would have his plate full with the Augusti for now. 1 day had passed since the bunker raid, though Ryan spent last night at the harbor helping Jamie protect drug supplies. Luigi hadn't shown up this time, probably at Livia's urging, but Jamie still invited Ryan to stay at his house all the same. That guy was so nice, he made the courier want to adopt him. Ryan spent the day in Mecron's bunker, settling things here. He had contacted Alchemo, who should make his way to New Rome by the next day and help take over the bunker's mainframe. With Dr. Stitch and Tyranno's long-distance assistance, the courier would have the best medical team in the world to figure out a cure for the psycho condition. The night he would dedicate to Livia. Then we will need to clean up Dynami's upper echelons, Matthias said. We plan to wait for Hector Manatta to retire, but we can hasten his departure all the same. I've seen Hector Manatta fall many times, Ryan said with a shrug. His children might be willing to switch to a safer, better product than one capable of causing a pandemic. Fallout won't follow, Matthias said. Enrique might, once we provide him with the necessary data to show the destruction Bloodstream could unleash, and especially if his family lied to him. But Alphonse is another beast entirely. He won't surrender Bloodstream even for a better alternative. Why wouldn't he? Ryan asked with a frown. He's a commie infiltrator. He wants to turn everyone into a genome, maybe even for free. The vigilante remained skeptical. Think about it. Fallout not only controls the knockoff supply, but with Tyranno's cure, he can also remove powers at will. That's not the case with Mecron's variants, if I understand correctly. Ryan pondered Shroud's point and had to admit that he might be right on the money. Adam Smasher planned to make everyone a genome so people like Augustus couldn't monopolize power, but he didn't wish to coexist with other organizations. Neither did he hesitate to lie to his close allies, so that Dynames could develop a monopoly on knockoff elixirs. If Dynames could both give superpowers and take them away, then it could become a true superpower. People would be kept in line by the fear of losing their knockoff genome abilities, and the Manada would monopolize the market. Fallout cares less about his knockoff's potential side effects than the societal control they grant his organization, Shroud said. If he was truly the hero he believes himself to be, he wouldn't have created something so dangerous in the first place. In the end, Alphonse Manada only believes in his vision. He won't deviate from his chosen path unless forced to. I can stop time, Ryan said, remembering Bianca running off to sacrifice herself. I will stop him. Can you? Shroud asked, doubtful. Among the most dangerous genomes operating in Italy, he comes a close third behind Augustus and Leo. I can, with this base's resources. This place will have to go, Ryan, Shroud insisted. Maybe there is something here that could defeat Fallout or even Augustus, true. But the risk of dangerous weapons spreading to the public is too great. Even distributing Mecron's knockoff formula doesn't strike me as a good idea. It might weaken the position of genome warlords, but our post-war society is too fragile to survive 10 million people with flamethrowers for arms. You're preaching to a convert, Ryan replied, but I will only destroy this place after it helps solve the current crisis. Shroudy Matty crossed his arms. Do you truly believe psychos can be cured? You don't, my transparent friend. No, the vigilante replied before adding, but if there is a chance it works. If there is even the slightest chance it works, I can't stop you from trying. It would help too many lives. For your mom, one of the genomes I called is specialized in brains. Shroud's head perked up at Ryan's words. He can even cure mental illnesses, Alzheimer's, and even a psycho's brain tumors. He could help you too. Ryan couldn't see looking glass face behind his mask, though the vigilante turned his head sideways, thoughtful. Why do you think the alchemist distributed these elixirs in the first place? To turn us into interdimensional squids, Ryan thought. I don't know, improve the human condition. I think so too, and yet we use them to ravage the world. Shroud shook his head. When I hear all the positive things geniuses can make, I can't help but wonder why Mecron built weapons rather than medical supplies. Not even superpowers could change human nature. Take it from someone who knows, Ryan replied. There will always be rotten apples like late Adam, but most people I've met only need the right circumstances to turn their lives around. Anyone can choose right over wrong, even a spoiled, self-obsessed brat with a busted power. Shroud chuckled. Do you know that she sculpts in her spare time? She must have shown her boyfriend her gallery yesterday night. Pretty neat, huh? She's good at it, Matthias continued, his tone warm. I thought she relied on her own luck to do everything, but she hides artistic sensibilities that appeal to me as a game designer. I can't quite explain it. And she won €500,000 in lottery winnings this morning, but instead of sitting on it, she wants to distribute it to Rust Town's orphans. My, was he speaking fondly of Fortuna? Yesterday's battle had greatly helped to turn his opinion of her around. She's a golden retriever, Ryan summed it up. Loud, no respect for personal space, but surprisingly warm and loyal underneath. Worse, she's a much better person than I thought. The courier put his hands behind his head. Will you be transparent with her on your next date? Will you turn back time to make your own go well? Matthias deadpanned with a joke of his own before answering. I think I will clear things up with her, but not as long as she's working as a hitman for Augustus. That's a deal breaker. Unlike other members of her group, she isn't in it for the killing, Ryan said. She wants to protect Livia first and foremost. It's almost romantic. Is that why you're dating her? Shroud's voice turned from amused to serious. To turn Augustus' daughter around. I asked her out because I wanted to, Ryan replied. He really had a thing for blue genomes shorter than himself. Giving her access to this place is dangerous, Ryan. What if she changes her mind and informs Augustus? She has earned my trust and helped me when I needed it, the courier replied. I want to return the favor. Her father would wreck up the world for her sake if he didn't. She didn't deserve to have her sire's crimes on her conscience. Mark my words, Ryan, you can't save everyone. Shroud marked a short pause. Especially from themselves. And yet, he had to try. After Alchemo comes here, we'll use your rabbit foot of a girlfriend to access the mainframe, Ryan said, changing the subject. You can confirm what I said about the other Mechron bases then, and we will unlock the self-destruct mechanism. I will have to inform Leo about you, you understand that? Shroud asked. Even if you turn back time again, I can't keep that to myself. Even for my cute, beautiful eyes. Not even for them, the carnival member replied with a chuckle. Is there a way for you to carry others through time? I suppose it is only mental, since there aren't 20 of you running around. Sharp guy. I have a procedure to transfer information directly into your brain, though your past self will have to submit to it. He won't, Shroud said, shaking his head. I know myself. I am too paranoid to let anyone alter my brain, even if you earn my trust beforehand. I'm not sure I would even accept such a procedure at Leo's urging, and I respect him more than anyone. Ryan had expected as much. The only people he imagined would go through with the memory transfer unconditionally were Alchemo, who understood the technology, and Saren, who had nothing left to lose. Even Len had remained on the fence so far. I'm trying to improve a system that could bypass that extra step, but nothing's confirmed yet. I don't like it, he admitted. You hold all the cards, and all I can do is go along. Well, I also trusted you enough to share my greatest secret too, Safelight, Ryan pointed out. I can count on one hand those who know my true, phenomenal cosmic power. I wonder what adventures we went through for you to do so. We defeated the Metagang together once, though Lightning Butt destroyed the city after you recruited Adam Cat. Good to know, Shroud replied dryly, though he didn't like it. Neither did Ryan, since Adam Kitten would clearly be much happier with the carnival than with Dynamis. A shame. I was interested in Felix Varen. He has a great deal of potential as a hero and a courageous heart. As much as the panda, Shroud scoffed. Come with me and see for yourself. The vigilante led Ryan into the bunker's atrium, where they found the transformed folding paper sheets under Len's watch. Saren was playing pool near a pile of books, including Discours de la Méthode, Pour bien conduire sa raison, Et chercher la vérité dans les sciences by René Descartes. Look, Sifu. The exquisitely folded the paper sheet in the shape of a mantis so fast that Ryan could barely see his paws move. The construct joined 4 others, representing a monkey, a tiger, a crane, and a snake. Tada! Nice superpower, Saren snickered. Can you unlock Rubik cubes too? One of my teammates, Origami, can turn herself into paper sharp enough to slice throats, Shroud replied dryly. She could even slice through your suit. You're salty, aren't you? The psycho taunted him, while focusing on her game. Earn my trust first, turncoat, and then we'll talk. Though he tolerated Saren, the vigilante mistrusted her as much as Ryan did in the early days of his presidency. If you sell us out as you did your previous employer, I will slay you myself. I told your hat pal if you truly can cure me, then you've got nothing to fear from me. Saren hit an 8-ball with her pool stick. Don't make me wait too long. The courier ignored them to focus on his bare disciple. Even Ryan couldn't fold paper that fast, even though he had mastered the skill years ago. I thought you were a martial arts genius, he asked his Pandoan. Or does your brilliance extend to all Eastern disciplines? No, that's not it, Len said while shaking her head. I ran tests. It took him minutes to pick up origami, and he learned French 5 pages into Descartes' book. The more I read, the more it made sense, the said. I think he can learn almost any skill at an accelerated pace, Len theorized. Pick up a new language quickly, gain new skills by learning them through osmosis. Ryan knew it took on average 10,000 hours to master a skill, but clearly bears only needed half of one. But how did enhanced learning help make you fly, my young Pandoan? That was so weird, Sifu. My vision went all blue, and then I remembered watching Bruce Lee's flying kick in the Green Hornet. And to illustrate his point, the mimicked a few kung fu moves with his paws. Then I could do it too. You learned one of Bruce Lee's moves by remembering it? Yes, the man-bear nodded. That's how I learned martial arts, but I was never this good before. In half an hour, the head mastered kung fu, origami, and Descartes. Ryan dreaded to imagine what he could achieve in a week. His Pandoan probably couldn't learn what a normal human couldn't, but anything else was fair game. Arithmetic, philosophy, martial arts, perhaps even genius technology, if given time to observe it. Bruce Lee's moves were made for humans, and yet the panda's second power allowed him to adapt them to his beastly body proportions. His arrogant young disciple had ascended to shatter the heavens. Speaking of power, Ryan needed to run tests on his own after he created the new iteration of the Saturn armor. It would also add a few improvements to deal with Alphonse Manata, such as switching the chest blaster with the gravity cannon. He had the feeling it would help deal with the nuclear disaster, maybe even lightning butt too. Well, I should go prepare for my date, Ryan said. Livia asked him to pick her up at 9 and to be on time. For once, the courier didn't dare to be fashionably late. Good luck, Sifu, the cheered him up. I knew the tension was palpable. Len, though, seemed a lot less enthusiastic. Riri, can I talk to you alone for a second? Ryan nodded, his adoptive sister leading him outside to the corridor overseeing the hangars. Henriette was playing with the children near the submarine, the dog delighting at having company. The group brought much levity to an otherwise claustrophobic, lifeless place. Len glanced through the corridor's window, her arms folded. You and her. It's hard to explain, Ryan admitted. The genius held her breath. In the past, loops did. Did my other self know? Well, I kinda told you how I felt and we decided to stay family afterward. Len's gaze saddened as she glanced at the Mecron-made submarine floating in the bunker's water access. We could reach the United States with it, she said. Cross the Atlantic Sea. Even I can't turn back time that far, Ryan said sadly. Trust me, I tried many times. I know Len bit her lower lips and didn't finish her sentence. Ryan didn't need her to do so to guess what she didn't dare to say. That part of her wondered how their relationship could have ended. They had left each other in tears, and though they had started picking up the pieces, some of them had been forever lost to the sea. We could leave this place, she said, though with hesitation. After we deal with Dad. I can't do that, Shorty, not anymore. If she had asked when he first arrived in New Rome, Ryan wouldn't have hesitated. But now the time traveler had too many people to fight for. He couldn't leave them behind in the dust. She will be fine, Len protested. She's his daughter. Let them tear apart New Rome if they want that rotten place so much. So I should let her father kill people for her sake, Ryan asked and instantly regretted it. Len flinched as if she had been slapped. I'm sorry. You don't want her to end up like me, the genius guessed, avoiding his gaze. Ryan glanced at the Mecron submarine. Do you think we could reach Antarctica with that thing? She frowned, not understanding what he wanted to say. Yes, of course. There's so many mysteries to uncover around the world, so many wonderful places to explore, Shorty, Ryan said. Things that make life worth living. Don't bury yourself under the sea, please. Even whales rise up to take a breath of fresh air sometimes. I just don't know what to make of everything, Len admitted. The carnival. They killed my father, but if what you've said is true, you will let the carnival operate on you, he asked her. Remove your father's blood tracker. It's the last part I have left of him. Ryan put his hands in his pocket, choosing his words carefully. His thoughts turned to his discussion with his own elixir when he briefly crossed the black world portal. Someone told me once that you have to let the dead rest. By trying to keep the dead alive, we only make everyone suffer. Nobody can move on. Len wouldn't answer, her face as blank as a death mask. Ryan's hand reached for her shoulder, but she avoided his touch. Too soon. Still, he accepted it, hoping his words would prevail. Shorty, your family, he said. That will never change. Not even whatever happens with Livia, if anything happens between us, will change that. You will always stay my best friend, my sister, my most important person in the world. She bit her lower lip. I don't know what to answer. Then don't say anything, Ryan answered with a smile. What I mean to say is that you're not alone, and you never have been. You don't need a ghost to carry on. The children love you, and whenever you trip, I will be there to help you rise back up. Ryan and Len fell into a comfortable silence, just as a black sphere phased through the hangar and collapsed into nothingness. It miraculously didn't harm anyone, though the courier should probably check up on his bedroom before leaving. Now I hope I didn't give you diabetes, Ryan joked, and to his surprise she chuckled and relaxed. It seemed his wit had broken through her shell. Riri, about your memory machine, you will try it on, recover your other self's memories. She answered his question with a nod. What made you change your mind? Even after what happened between us, you offered me your hand. The shadow of a smile appeared on her face. It's time I do the same for you. He found Livia waiting for him at the Deadland Motel. Ryan drove to the meeting spot in his Plymouth Fury, having repaired his car after the land wrecked it, though he had to drown it with perfume to hide the junkyard's stench. The courier himself had switched from his normal clothes to an elegant black jacket with a purple polo shirt underneath, with no bright color to be seen. Darkling would have loved it. A pity he couldn't raid Dynamis' cashmere factory without putting the company on high alert or starting a war with the Augusti. Neither could he use Mecron's matter replicator without Alchemo jailbreaking the mainframe first. Of course, Ryan could have always spent money, but a cashmere suit wasn't bought. It was taken, by either strength or wits. Livia had put a lot of effort into her appearance too, more than Ryan had ever seen her do. She wore an elegant sleeveless dress and golden bracelets, but also black stockings, red high heels, and golden earrings. She had put a lovely crimson rose in her hair, black linings around her eyes. It contrasted well with her sapphire eyes and the silver hair flowing on her back. Though she couldn't compare with her best friend Fortuna in the beauty department, Ryan found Livia quite lovely. A true princess. She hadn't seen him yet due to the ambient darkness, so he watched her from afar for a short while. Livia waited in the parking lot with her hands joined. She fidgeted in place and let out a long, heavy breath as if to calm herself. She hadn't seen how the date would end, and it made her nervous. Ryan drove to her side, ending her silent agony. Livia immediately corrected her expression upon noticing him, smiling warmly at his arrival. "Did you order a pumpkin carriage, princess?" Courier asked upon stopping in front of her. "Will your car turn into a vegetable at midnight?" She teased him while sitting at his side. Her perfume smelled of rose and strawberry. "This only leaves 3 hours. Livia, I can time travel. I can make 3 hours last a lifetime." "I don't doubt that," she said, closing the car's door behind her. "But I would prefer it if you could bring me home before 2 in the morning, or my father might get upset. You've never had a sleepless night out in town." Ryan asked, amused, as he drove away through New Rome streets. "My, it was about time I came into your life." Livia blushed a little, embarrassed. "I wasn't that sheltered," she protested. "With my power, I could experience wild moments by proxy with none of the hangovers, drowsiness, and side effects that came with it. Watching is not the same as living." "No, but I don't enjoy parties that much," she admitted. "I prefer simpler moments with just a few friends. The more people surround me, the more my power goes into overdrive, too many interactions at once." "Cancel blocks your visions?" Ryan asked, his date answering with a short nod. "You could always hang out with her then." Livia shook her head. "I don't like Greta. That woman is capable of anything. She could be just as hideously violent as Adam the ogre if she had any motivation." Lightning Butt's daughter frowned as they approached the highway where Ryan and Felix once engaged her Aunt Pluto in a car chase. "Where are we going?" "Away," Ryan replied. She blinked in surprise. "Away from the city. Well, I figured you probably visited all of New Rome's restaurants either directly or with your power, but there is one place I'm sure you've never been to before." "Within an hour's drive of New Rome?" Livia asked with skepticism before grinning wickedly. "I doubt so, unless you intend to take me out of the city to ravish me in the wilderness. Did you bring a chastity belt? It has been a while since I unlocked one." Livia's smile turned coy and playful. The young woman wasn't as innocent as she let it seem. "If my father heard you, he would have you struck down. I have a lightning rod in the car boot. Does your father even know you're in a car with a dashing courier?" His date's mischievous smile was an answer in itself. "Would he let you date anyone?" "Only an Augusti." "My father mistrusts anyone outside of our clan. He wouldn't let Felix anywhere near me again, even if—" her bashful smile turned sour. "So you're disobeying him even as we speak," Ryan mused, trying to distract her from her bad memories. "You live a dangerous life." His date chuckled in response, which Ryan took as a good sign. "Not as much as yours. To be fair, you're the first who dared to ask me out at all. Most men are simply too frightened to try." She looked at him warmly. "That's one of the things I like about you, Ryan. You dare it all." "You haven't seen anything yet," he replied, a foot on the accelerator. "Is your seatbelt tightly on?" "Yes, she gasped in surprise as the Plymouth Fury raced on the highway. 100 kph turned into 150, while Ryan switched the chrono radio to Mad Max 2's main theme. They passed by 2 cars, violating all road safety laws as they went. "Stop." Livia pleaded as the speed kept climbing, a hand on his arm. She screamed as they passed by a car so closely that they nearly brushed against it. Though she could sense the cars coming, she couldn't foresee how Ryan would react to them if he did. "Stop, you madman! Don't try this at home, kids," the courier said, using brief bursts of time stop to avoid colliding with other vehicles. Livia's scream of fear transformed into laughter as the adrenaline pumped through her veins and the Plymouth Fury reached its maximum velocity. Ryan had modified his car to reach over 300 kph, and at this speed, the world around them turned into a blur. Other cars became spots of color. The highway ahead became a tunnel of light. If only Ryan could have driven his Plymouth Fury rather than the Pandamobile when Pluto came for his head. Cruella would never have come within an inch of his car. Once he sensed they were close to their destination, Ryan activated a hidden button. The car hood opened to reveal a genius device, the tip of a particle accelerator. Tiny light spheres came out of it, stretching reality apart. "Have you watched Back to the Future?" Ryan grinned at Livia. She answered with a panicked, exhilarated scream as particles swallowed the Plymouth Fury. The stars above fell down in a rain of light, reality itself shifting around them. Space stretched on until it shattered, and the car emerged on the other side. Ryan hit the brakes and the device deactivated. The Plymouth Fury emerged from a particle cloud to slow down beneath alien skies on a highway without cars. Livia let out a heavy breath as she recovered from the adrenaline rush. Only then did Ryan notice that her left hand held his right tightly. She must have seized it instinctively when they reached maximum speed. Ryan's thumb brushed against her warm fingers and Livia squeezed tighter in return. "You okay?" the courier asked her. Instead of answering, she broke the hand contact and slapped him behind the head in response. "Ouch! You madman!" Livia let out a nervous laugh as the tension went down. "That was insane, Ryan. We'll have to do it again on the way back." "Oh, God," she smiled, catching her breath. "Did you ever get a driver's license?" "Now, don't ask too much." Livia giggled and glanced outside her window. Her eyes widened upon seeing the world around them. While they were still on the highway, purple auroras had taken over the night sky above them. The northern lights shone with the brilliance of stars, and within them one could glimpse images of strange places. Seas of mercury, clouds of floating ice, green lightning coursing through black, empty space. The highway was deserted except for the Plymouth Fury and seemed to stretch on forever. The land around the road had turned into a red desert, though one could see another highway in the distance. Even the temperature had increased, from chilly to warm and comforting. "What is this place?" Livia asked as they exited the car, astonished. "A thin place. A natural space anomaly, if you will." Ryan moved to the car boot where he kept the dinner. "I nicknamed it the Midnight Road." "I see other people," Livia said, pointing at two silhouettes on the second highway. "That's us." Ryan raised his hand and the silhouette on the distant highway imitated him. "Do you see?" "No." The Auguste princess had tears at the edge of her eyes. "No, I can't see anything." She wasn't talking about her eyes. In the end, they sat at the highway's edge, their feet dangling about the desert. Ryan offered Livia a sushi box and chopsticks to go with it. "Space folds back." His date asked after wiping away the tears, looking at the other highway in the distance. "Yep," Ryan replied, his mouth full of fish. "The highway stretches for 30 kilometers and then loops back. It's shorter on the sides." "Did you make this place?" Livia asked, tasting a futamaki with a curious frown. "Or did another genome build it?" Ryan shook his head. "It's a natural phenomenon, though you need genius tech to access it. The colored dimensions are above our realities, beyond space and time as most humans understand it, but there are other realms sideways too. They follow the same time stream as our own. So this is an alternate universe." "I wouldn't say that. It's more like a cave inside a mountain, except the mountain is Earth's reality. A place where space-time folds due to gravitational or electromagnetic anomalies." Ryan glanced at the purple auroras above their heads. "I think this place is close to the purple world, like a border realm between our universe and the big crossroads of all space and time." "I cannot observe anything within the color's dimensions, except the blue one," Livia guessed. "That is why I can't detect you either, since you exist in 2 dimensions at once." Ryan nodded, before noticing that his date didn't seem enthusiastic about finishing her plate. "You don't like the food." "I'm sorry," she made an embarrassed smile. "I hate it." Ryan's heart skipped a beat. "You hate Japanese food?" "I don't like sushi, no." Livia sheepishly shook her head. "I'm sorry." God damn it, he knew he should have picked French food. Nobody disliked French food except the British and the truly wicked. "But I love the place and the gesture," Livia immediately reassured him when she saw his dejected face. It more than makes up for the food. I will have to reload now, Ryan grumbled. The date is not perfect. No, Ryan, no, Livia protested, instantly serious. She put a hand on his arm and squeezed it tight. No, don't, please. It's because this moment is genuine that I enjoy it so much. Relax, I was kidding, Ryan teased her, his index finger brushing against her cheek. She blushed so much that a scarlet streak had formed beneath her eyes. Though you've got a smile to die for. Livia exploded into laughter, almost spitting out her food. The sound of her voice warmed Ryan's old, weary heart. Does that pickup line ever work? She asked with a wide grin on her face. More than you think. But not on me, she said as he removed his hand. You will have to do better. You might regret it. I invented lines so powerful that a few countries made them illegal. His date rolled her eyes and dared to put his boast to the test. Then prove me wrong. Instead of answering with words, Ryan put the sushi plates aside and grabbed Livia by the waist. His date let out a squeal of surprise as he quickly lifted and put her on his lap. She weighed almost nothing, their feet dangling into the void. Ryan, Livia laughed, so red the courier wondered if she might faint from the embarrassment. You're going too far this time. Come on, my lap feels better than the interdimensional highway's concrete. He put his arms around Livia and held her tight, her head resting against his shoulder. Unless your majesty would prefer a nobler seat. I ought to have you whipped for your insolence, but I have the feeling you might enjoy it. You would be right, mistress. The mafia princess laughed heartily, accepted the throne of Romano as her seat, and made herself comfortable. Her back rested against the courier's chest, and he sensed her hastening heartbeat beneath her skin. Though the scarlet streak across Livia's face had transformed into a light blush, Ryan could tell the situation was new to her. She had only ever dated Felix, who had never been as comfortable with physical contact as the courier was. Can you reach these places? Livia pointed a finger at the alien mirages in the skies, pictures of alien worlds unlike Earth. Some, Ryan confirmed. Others I plan to visit one day. Take me with you when you do, she all but ordered him, sounding like a true queen. To make up for your bold transgression. And what if I commit crime after crime? He teased her. Maybe I will punish you or maybe not, Livia replied coyly, putting her hands on his own. They felt warm and comforting to the touch, like Jasmine's had been. How did you even find out about these thin places? Did you stumble into one by accident? I learned of them while researching particle physics in Switzerland. Ryan shuddered. Don't go to Monaco. What is happening in that place? She asked, curious. My power will not show me. I heard nobody that goes there come back, but you said you lived a full life there. Shrimps and caviar, Ryan replied darkly. Even now both gave him PTSD. It's shrimps and caviar until you can't take it anymore. That doesn't explain anything. Livia frowned, sensing his unease. Something happened in this place, something that hurt you deeply. Ryan's first instinct was to deny the truth, but her firm gaze dissuaded him. The courier trailed off, having lived with this secret like a boulder around his ankle like a ball and chain. He had never told anyone, carrying that cross across time. Nobody would have understood, but she would. He could see it in her eyes. Livia had watched whole lifetimes through her power from what she had told him. She couldn't comprehend the sheer weight he carried, but she could imagine it. I told you I stayed there a full life, Ryan unburdened himself. I meant a full life. Livia guessed the truth. Her expression shifted into one of horror as she covered her mouth with a hand. No. Ryan looked away at the otherworldly desert beneath the highway without uttering a word. Is that why you always say you're immortal? Livia's eyes softened in compassion. Does Len know? No. Shorty already had enough burdens on her frail shoulders and ghosts of her own. You're the only one. Did you? The seer bit her lower lips as if afraid to go on. At that moment, Livia reminded Ryan of Len so much. They shared the same kind heart beneath all the hardships. Did you have a family? I never dared to, he confessed. If my timing was even slightly off during the conception, then a different child would be born from loop to loop. I wouldn't have survived it, not mentally. I'm sorry I asked that, Livia apologized. She turned her head, and her hand touched his chin to make him look up at her. The seer struggled to find the right words to comfort him until she did. I've seen other lives I could have lived with Felix, Livia confessed, her gaze sad and regretful. Growing old together, having children, I saw these possibilities, but I couldn't make them true. I won't pretend I understand what you went through because, she let out a brief sigh, because watching is not living. But you know how deep the pain goes. Yes, I do. Her hand brushed against his cheek. You don't have to suffer alone, Ryan. Now you don't have to suffer anymore. will help you with your burden, I swear." "Thanks." He took her left hand and kissed it gallantly. Now that he had her, Ryan could carry others through time. He could build lasting friendships, maybe even a family. The courier could finally create a future he was happy with. "I will return the favor." "You already did," Livia admitted, sounding as tired as he was. "I've had this power for nearly a decade and a half, Ryan. Truthfully, I've never gone on without it for so long since I was a child. It's refreshing, but scary too. I get it. I feel that way whenever cancel enters the picture. My power can be a pain, but it's reassuring." In the end, Ryan's elixir had tried to help. The entity had remained at its human side for centuries, sharing his hardships and victories. "I figured the best thing I could offer you was the unexpected. It was a wonderful gift." Livia fell silent, gazing at the alien horizon. Something weighed on her mind too. Ryan guessed what. "You've seen your father wage war in the future. Ryan, this is a blissful moment. Let us not ruin it with my sorrows." "I thought I already beat you to the gloomy confessions," he asked, tightening his hold on her waist, his cheek brushing against her neck. "Let us be honest, we'll never find better therapists than each other." Livia chuckled, though it sounded bittersweet. "Yes, I've seen it," she admitted with a heavy heart. "One night I dreamt that Felix would barge into my room riding a white stallion and carry me away from this city. It was a little girl's foolish dream, but I hoped it would come true one day." "Would you settle for a knight in power armor?" Ryan jested. "Lasers are the new swords." "Do you know Dynamis has lightsabers?" Livia asked him playfully. "Perhaps you should grab one, a blue one. And you take the red, Queen Crimson." "I love the dark side," his accomplice joked back. "But I prefer you on the side of the angels. Come on, we had the most fun in our meta run." Though the end was a lot grimmer than expected. "Yes, but no matter how much you try to hide it, Ryan, your true self shines through, your good, gentle self." Her smile faltered. "What father plans to do, I will stop it, you have my word." "I will help." "You already did more than you know, more than you should have." Livia looked into his eyes. "You don't have to go further, Ryan." "No, I don't," he agreed, meeting her gaze with a determined one of his own. "But I want to." They locked eyes for minutes afterward, Ryan seeing multiple emotions flash through Livia's blue eyes. Surprise, compassion, joy, gratitude, and something else, something deeper and more intense. "We should go," Ryan said. "It's past midnight." "Not yet," his date replied, staring at the skies. "Let us stay a little longer." They sat there in a comfortable silence, watching the auroras. In the end, Ryan brought Livia back to Mount Augustus. He stopped before the fortified fence circling the hill, right as the clock struck 2 in the morning. "Right on time, Princess," the courier said, glancing at his fellow genome. "So, what's my date review? 10 out of 10, 12.5 without factoring in the food." She didn't answer. Livia had spent the whole return trip without saying a word, her head resting against the palm of her hand, her eyes gazing beyond the window. Perhaps she regretted that her blue power now worked again. Ryan cleared his throat, slightly embarrassed by the silence. "Livia, I need to show you something." She shook her head, peeking out of the car's window and at the entrance portal's camera. After a minute of waiting, the doors opened for them. "If you want to." Ryan had a pretty good idea of what awaited him, but he needed to be sure. "You understand that your father will know." Livia looked into his eyes, and he understood. She had made that choice because of her father, knowing the consequences. It was an act of rebellion. Ryan drove the Plymouth Fury upward, towards the villa at Mount Augustus summit. He glimpsed guards protecting the property, but paid them no mind. Eventually, he parked his car near the house's entrance, exiting it with Livia. The Augusti princess led him into the villa through the front door, none of them saying a word. Though it was dark inside, she knew the place like the back of her hand and guided them through whitened corridors. Lightning Butt had devised his home like a true Roman villa, showcasing an obsession with marble deity statues and pillars that bordered on the pathological. Ryan didn't pay his surroundings much attention. His eyes remained firmly focused on Livia's back as he followed her. He could see shivers along her naked shoulders, her body rife with anxiety and tension. Eventually, she led him to a room with a large red door. The seer froze for a few seconds, let out a heavy breath, and opened it. Ryan walked into a bedroom almost as large as his luxury apartments, back when he worked for Il Miglier. Unlike the rest of the villa, it had been decorated in a more modern style. Paintings of cities, of smiling families, and natural wonders covered the walls, next to shelves full of dusty books. A reinforced window provided a direct view onto a beautiful terrace outside, and a king-sized bed lined up against a wall. Livia wordlessly sat on the mattress after closing the door behind them and joined her hands together. She didn't face Ryan, her eyes looking down at the ground. Her face was red, her breathing short, and she seemed terrified of asking him a single question. Ryan cleared his throat. "Livia, do you want to kiss me?" She asked meekly while looking up at him, afraid of his reaction. His lips met her own, and she didn't say another word for the rest of the night. Neither of them did. It was May 8th for the 17th time, and Ryan Romano had died happy. Or he could have, as he woke up in a king-sized bed and in Livia's arms. Ryan had beat up Ghoul again in his sleep, only to quickly snap out of this nightmare. And a nightmare it had been. The courier usually didn't care about dying and beginning again, even in his dreams, but now he did. He didn't want her to forget him. Livia was holding him even now, her arms around his neck, her breasts on his chest, a leg over his thigh. Her hair covered her restful face like silver strands. The sear was warm to the touch, and she lightly snored, which Ryan found cute. Still, he might have to sleep with earplugs from now on. Ryan Romano had been with countless people in his long life, and in his mind, lovemaking said a lot about a person's character. Len had been hesitant, clumsy, and vulnerable, the doll curious and playful. Jasmine had been wild, energetic, and liked weird roleplay. Livia, though, it had been right, just right, like fitting the right key in a lock. Livia was less experienced than her partner, but she was delicate, attentive, and considerate, and she laughed sometimes at the most inappropriate time. Ryan couldn't explain why, but her laughter relaxed him. For a moment, the courier completely forgot about psychos, Bloodstream, and the fact he just bedded Lightning Butt's daughter in his own house. He only cared about the lovely woman in his bed. For an instant, Livia was his world. He wanted to wake her up to face her and hold her hands while they kissed. He wanted to hold her to become one with her. But the seer slept so soundly and so blissfully that Ryan couldn't bring himself to disturb her rest. In her own dreams, Livia looked happier than the courier had ever seen her. Ryan was hungry, though. The courier had noticed a kitchen on his way to Livia's bedroom, so he would go prepare the breakfast. He was sure Augustus' daughter would love to wake up in front of pastries. Livia wouldn't let Ryan go, though, even in her sleep. When the courier tried to sneak out of the bed, she just held him tighter. He had to freeze time to escape her grip and put a pillow in his place, but a frown appeared on the seer's face as time resumed. The sight made Ryan feel, it took him a while to figure out the right word. Loved. Ryan felt loved. Livia wanted him at her side so much, she wouldn't let him go even in her dreams. Once, the time traveler would have backed away in fear afterward, fear that he might die, and that this moment would lose its significance. Fear of the pain he would feel if Livia forgot him. But now Ryan wanted to return to her. It took all his willpower and screaming stomach not to slip back into the bed. The bedsheets know the whole room reeked of sex, so Ryan opened the windows to let the fresh air in. The morning sun outside blinded him and burnt his skin like a vampire, though he quickly recovered. Only redheads had to fear the morning sun, for they lacked a soul. Ryan thought of putting on his clothes, but they were dirty. Instead, the naked courier explored the bedroom and found a white bathrobe with cat motifs. The time traveler wondered if it had once belonged to Felix, before putting it on alongside the slippers. Before moving to the door, Ryan took a moment to examine the paintings in the bedroom. Some represented Livia as a child with two people whom he recognized as her parents. Augustus always looked grim in reality, but his painted self smiled warmly. It made Mob Zeus seem less like a bloodthirsty monster and more like a human being. Most importantly, he hadn't turned into an ivory statue then, his hair white and his eyes blue like his daughter. As for his wife, she was a carbon copy of Livia, albeit older and stouter. Other pictures represented cities like New York, with one tower in place of the World Trade Center. A painting of Paris had zeppelins flying in the sky alongside steam-powered devices. It seemed Livia liked to paint about alternate universes in her spare time. Or perhaps she dreamed of happier realities than her own. In any case, Ryan silently slipped out of the bedroom and quickly found his way to the kitchen. Unlike the straight antiquity style of the rest of the villa, the architect designed this room to mix the old and the new. High-tech fridges and ovens faced a 5 meters long marble counter and ivory statues of Roman deities. Venus and Mars holding hands, Jupiter triumphant, Diana and Apollo hunting side by side. How could Ryan resist making breakfast in such divine company? The courier searched the room and found a silver platter. He put it on the marble counter and started preparing the breakfast. Livia was quite skinny, which Ryan found unhealthy, so he prepared fried eggs, bacon, coffee, and French croissants. The courier would make pancakes for her tomorrow. Ryan raised his eyes to look at the statues while he prepared the breakfast. Maybe it was sleeplessness, but the statue of Jupiter seemed vaguely familiar, very familiar. Ryan blinked, one hand holding a knife and the other a buttered toast. The Jupiter statue was a carbon copy of Augustus, standing still while gazing at the counter. The courier dropped everything and moved to the side, but the statue's eyes didn't follow. Come to think of it, Lightning Butt always kept a shroud of lightning around his face, to intimidate others. This statue had none. Was Mob Zeus arrogant enough to populate his own villa with statues in his likeness? Or was it something else? Ryan knew he should take the platter and return to Livia, but he couldn't suppress his morbid curiosity. The time traveler moved in front of the statue and waved his hand before its eyes. No reaction. "Oh, look outside, it's a wild Hargraves." Ryan pointed at the kitchen's window and the sunlight outside. "Quick, he's getting away." The statue didn't react. It didn't breathe, didn't blink, didn't do anything. Damn, Discount Zeus was arrogant enough to build statues of himself and put them in his kitchen. Ryan poked the ivory construct in the nose and decided to call it quits. This time, Augustus woke up. The ivory statue's eyes glanced down at Ryan, blinking a few times. It reminded the terrified courier of a grandpa with Alzheimer's, suddenly remembering his son's face. Was Lightning Butt sleeping with his eyes open like a crocodile, or did his tumor cause him to have a brain seizure? "Hey, what's up?" Ryan asked, trying to lighten up the atmosphere. He better make a good impression, as Lightning Butt wouldn't take anyone dating his daughter well. "Who are you?" Augustus asked, his eyes squinting. There was no fear nor surprise in his voice, which Ryan found quite intimidating. The tyrant was so confident in his own power that catching an intruder in his own home didn't even faze him. "I'm Batman," Ryan replied, trying to sound calm. However, he couldn't shake the ominous feeling of dread pervading the room. "Whom?" Lightning Butt observed Ryan's bathrobe, his eyes flaring with crimson lightning upon recognizing the outfit. "This belongs to my daughter." In hindsight, sleeping with Lightning Butt's daughter beneath his own roof might not have been Ryan's brightest idea. "You know what, don't mind me, I'll take the due." Ryan tried to take a step back, but Augustus swiftly grabbed his shoulder with his right hand. Lightning Butt had invaded his personal space, like Germany with Poland. "You are not going anywhere," Lightning Butt said, his tone suddenly a lot more threatening. "Thief!" Of what, a bathrobe? Ryan would have bore that badge with pride if it had been a cashmere suit, but he wouldn't go to war for cotton. "Nah, I'm rich." Rich people didn't steal, that was known. "I'm a good friend of your daughter and she invited me for a sleepover." "Lies," Augustus replied, his grip on Ryan's shoulder tightening. It didn't hurt yet, but the courier could tell that the murderous mob boss would tear him in half at the slightest provocation. "My daughter would inform me. She knows the rules." "I do not know how you bypassed the guards, but you were foolish to come here." "It was late. You can check the cameras or ask Livy." "You will not get anywhere near my blood," Augustus interrupted him. "Now tell the truth before I tear off your limbs." Damn it, that paranoid psychopath wouldn't listen. Ryan looked into the madman's eyes and saw that nothing the courier could say would change his mind. One glance, and Lightning Butt had already condemned the courier to death. Ryan could try running back to Livia to clear this up, but Mob Zeus could move inside his time stop and zap him with lightning. And if the courier perished now, then Livia would forget that night. She would forget him. The courier had to delay and pray for Lightning Butt's daughter to wake up. "I will not repeat myself again," Augustus said, tempting fate. "Where did you find?" Ryan froze time and didn't move. As far as the world was concerned, he had stopped just like everything else. "These clothes." Augustus blinked, glanced around, and let out a sound that could pass for a sigh. He waited several seconds for the effect to end with a look of resigned acceptance. "I'm sorry, sir," Ryan asked when time resumed, feigning confusion. Thankfully, he had an excellent poker face. "What did you say?" "I said that." The clock stopped again, and once more Ryan feigned being paralyzed. Augustus let out a snarl of anger and frustration, much to the courier's deep satisfaction. The mob boss clenched his jaw, even after the flow of time resumed. "I'm sorry, sir," Ryan apologized, delighting at the ivory man's frustration. After watching this selfish prick try to murder Leo Hargraves as the world collapsed around them, it felt quite good. To add insult to injury, the courier looked at Lightning Dad as if he had gone senile. "Do you need medicine, sir?" Augustus waited a bit longer, half expecting time to freeze again. Finally, once he thought himself safe, he opened his mouth again. "I said," time froze again. Instead of sighing or raging, Augustus squinted at Ryan, his expression thoughtful. "I can see electrons move in your brain. You are not affected by this temporal anomaly. You are its source." Damn, Lightning Butt was brutal but not stupid. "Stop this at once." Ryan didn't break character, even as time resumed. Augustus waited a few more seconds, his face undecipherable, before opening his mouth again. "As I said," and time stopped again. Augustus' hand moved from Ryan's shoulder to his neck and lifted him above the ground. "You dare to mock me?" Mob Zeus snarled angrily. The courier kicked and punched the invincible man's arm in the frozen time, but he didn't even notice. Unlike when Ryan struck him in the previous loop, Augustus didn't react with shock at someone being capable of harming him. The time traveler's blows couldn't hurt him. Damn it, as he had guessed, Ryan needed the Saturn armor to use his black superpower. He couldn't damage Lightning Butt without it. "You would strike me? Madness." Augustus sneered as time resumed. "This is your last chance. Where did you find these clothes?" "In your daughter's wardrobe," the courier blurted out. Lightning Butt noticed the sparkle in Ryan's eyes alongside his messy hair. The ivory man's eyes noticed the breakfast for two, prepared with love, and he finally understood. The Augusty patriarch didn't want to admit it, though. His fingers tightened around the courier's neck, squeezing the air out of him. "What did you do?" he snarled, lifting Ryan higher until his head touched the ceiling. "What did you do to my daughter?" Ryan wanted to say something clever, but Augustus squeezed his throat so tightly that no word came out. Lightning Butt eventually realized the interrogation wouldn't go anywhere like this, eased his grip enough to let the time traveler breathe, and looked into his captive's eyes. "Did you sleep with my daughter?" Augustus asked, his cold fury 10 times more threatening than his snarls. Knowing nothing he said would save him, Ryan answered with the first thing that came to mind. "Yes, Daddy, yes." Augustus brutally slammed Ryan against the counter. A normal human would have gone splat from the impact, and the shock made the marble crack. The silver platter almost fell off to the ground, and one of the coffee cups shattered. Ryan saw stars for a moment and landed on the ground, chest first. Lightning Butt released his grip while his victim gasped for air. "You will die begging," Augustus said with cold fury, towering over the courier like the specter of death. His whole body cackled with crimson lightning, the microwave and electrical devices in the room malfunctioning. "Like a Jew on a cross." "And it was," Ryan coughed, defiant. "Unprotected." Lightning Butt gave Ryan the Palpatine electroshock treatment by zapping him with electricity. It was a low-current blast, not enough to kill the courier, but it hurt. It hurt like hell. A lightning bolt hit Ryan in the chest, his skin burning, the bathrobe releasing smoke. The courier's body trembled, the nerves in his body stimulated by the lightning. It felt as if his body had caught fire, his lungs melting. "Dad!" Her shrieking voice echoed in the kitchen, but Augustus kept zapping Ryan with murder on his mind. If anything, he only increased the voltage, even as Akai time skipped forward, and when it resumed, her arms immediately seized him. The pain in his chest remained, alongside severe burns, but no lightning coursed through Ryan's nerves anymore. He had crawled near the statue of Minerva, with Livia kneeling protectively at his side. She wore a black bathrobe of her own, but no slippers. The seer must have rushed into the kitchen the second she woke up. Lightning Butt dropped the lightning halo surrounding his head, though rage still possessed him. Augustus sternly gazed at Livia. "You used your power on me, daughter. You were electrocuting my boyfriend," she hissed back. Though Lightning Butt had shrugged off Ryan's blow, his daughter's words made him flinch in surprise. If he still had any doubt about what happened, her revealing dress and the intimate way she held Ryan close dispelled them. The courier could hear Livia's accelerating heartbeat beneath the cotton. "You willingly gave yourself to this." Augustus glared at Ryan with disgust. "This miscreant." "Ryan is nothing of that sort," Livia replied with a frown. "He is a kind and noble man. Conqueror of Monarch." Ryan rattled, his muscles still struggling to move. The crimson lightning must have messed up his nervous system, the wrong limbs answering his mental commands. Augustus completely ignored the courier, refusing to acknowledge his existence. Instead, he studied his daughter with an imperious gaze, yet Livia refused to back down and locked eyes with her sire. "How long?" Lightning Butt questioned his daughter. Livia frowned, biting her lower lips. A little more than 1 week. That long. Ryan wondered before realizing that she counted the previous loop. They could consider the Star Studio raid their first date. Is this about Felix? Augustus asked angrily. Revenge for his abandonment? No, Livia replied angrily. I chose Ryan for himself. You chose wrong. Lightning Butt's eyes flared with a burst of lightning. Look at this clown. I have seen his kind countless times. All he wants is your beauty, your money, your power. He is a parasite. You say that about everyone, Dad. Because it is true. Do you think he would be interested in you if you weren't my daughter? You don't know him, Dad, Livia replied, her gaze harshening. And if you think I wouldn't have done my research, then you don't truly know me either. Ryan almost opened his mouth, but this time wisely remained silent. One wrong move and Lightning Butt might slay him before Livia could react. The shame and the pain he could live with, but her forgetting him would hurt far deeper than the lightning. Augustus' face twisted into an angry scowl. Livia, step aside. She briefly hesitated but held her ground. No, father. Step aside, daughter. No, she repeated, the word so sweet to hear. I won't let you murder him like Narcinia's parents. Augustus' eyes widened in surprise, his jaw clenching. Who told you about that, Felix? Does it matter? Felix, her father said, reaching his own conclusions. He will pay for this slander with his tongue. You won't touch his tongue or any part of Felix, Livia declared, grabbing Ryan's hand. Nor will you harm my current boyfriend. I'm an adult, I can date whoever I want. I am your father, Augustus raised his tone, and you shall obey me. If you touch them, I will leave. These words silenced Lightning Butt, making him blink repeatedly. He looked as if he would stumble. The illusion of invincibility was stripped away, and for a brief moment, Ryan could see the lonely, paranoid old man beneath the iron-fisted dictator. I will leave, Livia said, struggling not to cry. I will go and I will not return. Bacchus and Mars can have your rotten empire of filth for all I care. Livia. Augustus' tone softened a little. For the first time, Ryan heard something other than wrath and cruelty in the Titan's voice. You are my heir and my daughter. But you are still a young woman and naive. Experience comes with age, and it is my duty as your father to protect you from threats you cannot see. Your mother. I can protect myself, Livia replied firmly. Even from you. Augustus' fists tightened to the point that a normal person might have started bleeding. Could the superpowered tyrant cancel his own power? Could he hurt himself? I could not protect your mother, but I will protect you. Felix is a shameless traitor and this little shit. Lightning Dad glared at the courier with the same hatred he usually reserved for Leo Hargraves. This man is turning you against me, your own father. No, Dad, Livia argued firmly. You are doing that on your own. Augustus turned into an ivory statue as still as stone. Dad, please, I want him, Livia breathed deeply. He is kind to me and he makes me smile. Augustus' silence stretched on for several agonizing seconds. The air was heavy with an undercurrent of electricity, as if a thunderstorm might explode any moment. The microwave had short-circuited. You, Mob Zeus glared at Ryan. What is your name? By now, the courier had recovered enough to form complete sentences. Ryan Quicksave Romano, I'm immortal, but don't tell. If you disrespect my daughter, Augustus interrupted him, his voice booming like thunder, I will kill you. Yes, Lightning Dad. Augustus' eyes narrowed dangerously. He did not like the nickname. If you break her heart, I will kill you. Yes, Lightning Dad, Ryan repeated, returning the man's vicious gaze. By now, he understood that submission would be seen as weakness, but open defiance wouldn't be tolerated. He had to assert himself without being too disrespectful. If you break up with her, I will kill you. Yes, Lightning Dad. Thank you, Father, Livia whispered in relief, holding Ryan's hand. Augustus stormed out of the room, coldly furious. He didn't spare a glance to Ryan and did his best to ignore him. The tyrant punched a wall on his way out, his fist going through stone like paper. Ryan coughed. That's almost exactly how I expected to meet your parents. Are you insane? Livia hissed when her father was gone. Couldn't you wait for me to wake up before wandering off? He could have killed you. I wanted to prepare your breakfast, Ryan replied, pointing at the silver platter. The coffee cups were gone, but the pastries had survived. Livia's anger immediately turned into a blush, and she gave him a bittersweet smile. We'll go to Venus and Narcinia, she said. They will cure your wounds in no time. It's fine, it can wait a little. Ryan, you were struck by lightning. Wouldn't be the first time. Do you have ointment? Livia frowned at his question, but nodded. Good, I will put some on while you return to bed. And then what? And then I will bring you breakfast properly this time. You're such a gallant fool, Livia said with a chuckle before helping him rise back to his feet. How did you imagine it, me introducing you to my father, with your daddy pointing a shotgun at my back and Bacchus officiating the wedding? She giggled. I wouldn't count on it. Bacchus worships a stranger god than the Catholic Church S. Her pale fingers brushed against his wound. The skin hurt, but his heart was soothed. We will still go to Venus after breakfast. I told you before, Ryan, you don't have to suffer anymore. Ryan put his hands around her waist while she moved her hands around his neck. And next breakfast, what will it be? Livia smiled and briefly kissed him on the lips without a word. Strawberries, then. An atheist had once told him that though he never believed in God Almighty, the Chapel Sistine made him doubt. How could anyone question the existence of God in this room? Cardinal Andreas Torque had seen many sinners repent in tears the moment they raised their head at the ceiling to witness the glorious work of Michelangelo. No man's heart could remain unmoved at this architectural and visual perfection. Most only remembered the creation of Adam part of the frescoes, but Michelangelo had painted many more stories, each marvelous in their own way. The cardinal could spend hours marveling at this divine feast for the senses, and the sight of tourists taking pictures of this wonder without appreciating it made him weep inside. But these were not the opening hours of the Vatican museums. Only a single man's footsteps echoed in the chapel to join his superior as the clock struck midnight. Father Torque, Inquisitor Ambrosio greeted the cardinal, dressed in the black garments of the Roman Catholic Church. Ambrosio was more than 20 years Andreas senior, his head balding, his golden beard falling off at the edges. Yet his green eyes shone with the same witch fire that warmed Andreas' heart. Andreas Torque was one of the youngest cardinals in the Catholic Church. By decree of His Holiness Jean-Paul II, he had not yet reached 40. Many had questioned his appointment, his virtue, and his achievements. He had no great deed to his name, and he liked it this way. His work was best done in the shadows. The Malleus Maleficarum, the Vatican's secret service, did not exist, even to most of its members. The Church was officially neutral in world affairs and only worked through its extensive diplomacy network. It was a lie, of course. The Catholic Church had many enemies and needed fiery swords as much as quills. The Malleus Maleficarum's purpose was to keep His Holiness aware of all dangers threatening the true faith and to advance the Catholics' interests across the world. When Andreas had joined the service, he had been nothing more than an inquisitor, the lowest rank of this secret fraternity. The future cardinal had spent most of his career undermining the communist plague that had infected Eastern Europe and revitalizing the Church's influence in the broken USSR's regions. When he eventually became the organization's Inquisitor General 7 years ago, Andreas Torque had worked on His Holiness' behalf to check the influence of terrorist groups in the Middle East. Even though Jean-Paul II was on his deathbed, surrounded by scheming cardinals, the Malleus Maleficarum worked tirelessly to fulfill the Pope's wish of universal peace. In short, Andreas Torque was used to fighting human evil. But the horrors they were facing nowadays were something else entirely. Something unnatural. The two priests sat on a bench with Ambrosio giving his superior a 25-page-long file. Only 2 words were written on the cover. Stanford Incident. Andreas' eyebrows furrowed deeper with each line he read, and the priest outright scowled when he reached the first picture. Who else knows? Torque asked. Only the Americans for now, and us. Father Ambrosio joined his hands, a thoughtful frown on his face. But a video already made its way on the internet. It's only a matter of time before MI6 and the Russians find out too. The internet made keeping secrets from the world harder than ever. The cardinal was surprised the Americans could keep something that big under wraps, but he wondered for how long. They could hide a village's destruction, but not a roaming monster. The photo showed an abomination straight out of the deepest pits of hell. A white-skinned, faceless beast lifting a car as easily as a chair. The arms were abnormally long, and a luminous light glowed where the face should have been. Considering the height difference with the man it crushed underfoot, the monster had to be 6 meters tall at the very least. A shroud of blue mist surrounded it like swirling winds. All his life, Andreas had only ever seen the hand of man at work. But that thing, what could it be but a true demon of flesh and blood as described in the Holy Scriptures? This is Satan's work, Andreas declared firmly. A demon. This was a man, Father, Ambrosio replied grimly, sending shivers down the cardinal's spine. Keep reading. Andreas skimmed the report's content, summarizing it out loud. It helped him memorize information. Stanford, Nevada, 202 inhabitants. On its way to becoming a ghost town since their iron mine dried up. Half of them are dead or missing, and the other half in government custody. The event happened on November 14th, 6 days before the report reached the Cardinal. According to survivors, the monster had burst out of the local clinic at around 7:30 in the evening and gone on a rampage. The beast tore men apart with its bare hands, and breathing the mist that followed in its wake turned people feral. By the time survivors managed to contact the authorities and the government quarantined the area, the monster had escaped into the Mojave Desert. Lack of internet and telephone coverage had made it hard for the government to respond quickly, but easy to cover it up afterward. Always the same pattern. All the previous incidents took place in similarly isolated areas, the Cardinal noted, but never with such deadly consequences, Ambrosio replied. The monster is out there and the USA's government hasn't caught it yet. It won't stay hidden forever. No, it won't. Whoever was responsible was getting bolder, more reckless. Andreas flipped the page until he found the picture of a thuggish-looking man so skinny that the Cardinal wondered if he suffered from malnutrition. James Poole, some dirt-poor repairman, Ambrosio said. He was due to receive a second shot of tetanus vaccine after the first was found to be a placebo. The town's doctor, Jason Hopfield, was supposed to receive him at 7:30. The report indicated that the doctor's body had been found in the wreckage, gutted chin to groin like a fish. Both the vaccines came from a private company called New H, Ambrosio continued. You know the Americans, they always mistrust their health care. Some think their government puts microchips in them, and so they look for alternative sources. A microchip would have been a kinder fate than turning into a monster. Andreas offered a prayer to both the doctor and patient. What do we know of this company? Little, except that that paper trail leads nowhere. The Cardinal grit his teeth. So it's another dead end. Not quite, Ambrosio said, as his superior flipped the report's pages. The town's sheriff took a picture of the vaccine's deliverer. Something about her behavior unsettled him. Her, that woman again. Andreas quickly found her photo and scowled. It was her, short black hair, blue eyes, eminently plain, 30-something. She had worn a cap when she made that delivery, but it was the clearest picture of her that the Malleus Maleficarum had found so far. November 14th. A doubt wormed its way into the Cardinal's mind. At which hour was this photo taken? He asked his fellow priest. Universal time coordinated. 1 a.m. UTC, I think. Torque closed the file, clenching his jaw. Inquisitor Silas sighted her near an illegal laboratory in an Uzbekistan frontier town at 2 a.m. UTC before he went silent. They hadn't yet recovered the body, but though the Cardinal prayed for his agent's survival, he knew better than to expect it. The laboratory had turned into a smoking ruin by the time reinforcements arrived, with Silas nowhere to be found. Ambrosio registered the words and frowned. Are you sure it was her? Silas' description matched that photo. The agent had been tracking that individual down for a year, since she had been sighted during the Burning Woman incident in Tajikistan. How can a woman move between two sides of the earth within an hour? Or she was in two places at once. Who was that woman? What was that woman? Some kind of witch or demon? Have you used our facial recognition software on the photo? Yes, and it came up with a name, Ambrosio replied. Though most priests were too old to understand new technology, the Malleus Maleficarum had invested heavily in them to always keep an advantage. Combined with the previous sketches, the program came up with a name, Eva Faber. Eva Faber. The name sounded familiar. Thankfully, Andreas had a prodigious memory, and he quickly remembered where it came from. The GEIPAN French files, he said. The Antarctica mass suicide of 1992. The French kept a not-so-secret archive about UFOs sightings, and Andreas heard rumors that they intended to make a few of the files public. But none of the truly interesting ones, of course. France might have split from the Catholic Church a century ago, but the faith still had friends in high places. A French general had shared with the Malleus Maleficarum a copy of the GEIPAN files. Some of them were quite disturbing. Much like many countries in the world, the French maintained a presence in Antarctica. They had an official research station there, studying penguins. But Torque knew for a fact that France once had a second, secret laboratory deeper inland called Station Orpheon. Secret, because the station had been dedicated to studying bacteriological weapons away from civilization. Eva Faber had been the base's lead geneticist. On the night of December 12, 1992, Station Orpheon contacted the French Minister de la Défense to inform them of a peculiar event, Andreas whispered. The scientists saw a flash of purple light in the skies, and then an unidentified object crashing in a glacier nearby. The French authorities had lost contact with the station 2 days afterward. When French soldiers reached the station to investigate, they found 22 of the 23 researchers dead. An experimental, deadly bacteria had escaped and infected the staff. The soldiers thought it had been an accident until they checked the radios and found them sabotaged. Though almost all the researchers had been accounted for, Eva Faber's body was never found. The French government quietly covered up the incident, and after 5 years of searching for the missing scientist, closed the file. Eva Faber had probably caused the outbreak before killing herself, they figured. Isolation drove men and women mad. Neither had the investigators found any trace of a meteorite impact, not even with satellite surveillance. The event had joined the other strange tales of the GIPAN files and been forgotten. Ambrosio searched inside his garment for a photo, which he handed to his superior. Torque raised an eyebrow before comparing it to the sheriff's snapshot. Not only could Eva Faber teleport, but she hadn't aged in nearly 12 years either. Somehow, the cardinal wasn't even surprised. "How cold?" Andreas asked, after putting all the pictures inside the file and closing it. "The new H-lead, I mean." "The Americans couldn't find anyone employed by this company, but my informers had more luck with the vehicle used for the delivery," Ambrosio explained. "It was purchased through an American shell company, owned by a Swiss bank. Probably the same bank that funded the illegal lab in Uzbekistan. Find someone and make them talk," Andreas ordered. "These incidents are escalating in severity, which means they're building up to something." A confessor informed me that one of the bank's administrators could be open to collaborating with the church's investigation. For the sake of his soul, for the sake of his bank account. In this era of greed, mammon ruled absolute. "How much?" the cardinal asked, and scowled deeply when his agent told him the amount. "That's a hefty price. Even Judas only asked for 30 silver coins. Traders are more expensive than ever nowadays, Father Torque. Supply and demand." "I will have to ask for his help then." Thankfully, he was the next appointment. "I will wire the money to the usual account. Do not fail." Ambrosio took a deep breath. "If I may ask, Inquisitor General, what are we investigating?" "I don't know," the cardinal admitted, "and that's what I'm afraid of. Communists, terrorists, they're all humans in the end, but that woman and these abominations, they're something else." "You think time is running out. How can you doubt it now?" the cardinal asked. "If this snapshot made it to us, then it means she isn't hiding anymore. His Holiness will perish soon, and then there will be a time of crisis. The Church must act now before it is too late." "May the Lord be with us," Ambrosio prayed before taking his leave, leaving the cardinal alone in the chapel. Andreas' eyes wandered to the ceiling, to the sight of God's hand reaching for the first man. He pondered how events had progressed to today, inexorably. A string of disappearances in early 2002, all in the southern hemisphere. Brazil, South Africa, Australia, Tanzania, hundreds had vanished without a trace, with nothing to tie them together. Nothing, except the fact they happened in isolated areas, and the same woman had been cited in 3 of the cases. Then people started vanishing in the northern hemisphere too. 2003. A woman spontaneously caught fire in Tajikistan, killing 14. A laboratory was discovered in Siberia, with human test subjects found inside. Some had extra organs or limbs, and all were missing people from last year. A scaled thing capable of turning invisible was caught on tape in Utah. As for 2004, a man had shot a Serbian war criminal in his own home, only for authorities to learn that the killer had been made of bolts and wires. Sarajevo suffered from unexplained earthquakes, people swearing that they heard gears moving below the earth. And now this. Andreas Torque was finally starting to see the bigger picture, the trend that united all these events into a coherent narrative. It clicked when he had heard the word vaccine. Tests. Eva Faber was testing something on people, turning them into monsters. That was the only explanation that made sense to Andreas Torque, though he couldn't understand whatever science or sorcery made it possible. Whatever the case, this wicked woman was a threat to the world's natural order, and she had to go. The cardinal would find Eva Faber before she claimed more victims. He would listen to her tale, let her confess her sins so that she might earn absolution from the Lord. And then he would burn her like a witch. Andreas looked away from the ceiling as he heard new footsteps. Ambrosio's had been soft, careful. These ones were firm, heavy with power and purpose. The man that walked in the chapel was in his mid-50s, a veteran of half a dozen mob wars, a titan in a red suit bought with drug money. The cardinal could almost hear the blood dripping from his hands, though they looked clean. His cold, heartless eyes didn't hide anything. One couldn't see this man and not doubt for a second about his true nature. "Janus," the cardinal said. "Andreas," the man answered with a shark-like glint in his eyes. "You look concerned." "I am. We live in strange, dangerous times." The cardinal invited the mafioso to sit down, but he declined. "The bench is warm." "I would prefer we meet in the classical art gallery," the mob boss replied. Unlike any sensible soul, he didn't even bother looking at the ceiling. Janus Augusti was a godless man, but he served the Lord all the same. "What is on your mind, my friend?" Janus asked, looking down on the seated priest. Though many men would have shaken in dread at this man's presence, Andreas Torque remained serene. "I assume this must be urgent to organize this meeting so late. I will go straight to the point." The cardinal took a deep breath, having hoped not to resort to this. "I need millions. You will have your funds if you clean them." Of course. Some officials in the Vatican Bank laundered mafia money to fill their pockets, but Andreas Torque did it for a higher cause. The Malleus Maleficarum needed a black budget, independent from the Holy City's finances to maintain plausible deniability. It was a dirty job, but all was forgiven if done in the Lord's service. Janus was no member of the Malleus Maleficarum, though, and the less he knew about the Vatican's secret activities, the better. Andreas could tell that if he let this man sink his claws into the organization, he would corrupt it as he did with many others. His influence over the Neapolitan Camorra was almost unmatched, and from what Andreas had heard, he intended to expand. Nobody was able to resist him for long. Unfortunately, Janus Augusti smelled weakness like how a shark could detect blood from miles away. "The situation must be dire for you to ask for so much," he said, examining the priest suspiciously. "If you need my protection, you only need to ask. The Lord protects me. He would not protect you from me if I wished you harm." A blasphemous boast, but the man was not to be underestimated. He had filled entire cemeteries, cementing his empire of sin with blood and tears. "But I am genuine. You are almost a friend now, and I need men with your talents." "I may serve as your wife's confessor, but you are a necessary evil as far as I am concerned, Janus," the cardinal replied. "Let's keep it that way." The mob boss chuckled. "A necessary evil, you say? I suppose it is appropriate. I do separate the worthy from the unworthy. Truly good and strong men wouldn't need my services." Andreas didn't miss the not-so-subtle taunt. "Do you think of me as evil or weak?" "There is no good or evil, Andreas, but I do wonder what your Pope would think upon seeing us together. Somehow I doubt he would approve of your work." "What His Holiness does not know cannot harm him," the cardinal replied, though his resolve was slightly shaken. "I do the dirty work needed to keep his hands clean, for the greater good." Janus clearly didn't believe him if the amused look on his face was any indication. "No matter," he said. "Long as you clean the blood off my family's money so I may pay for my daughter's birthdays, I will let you cling to your delusions." Andreas ignored the taunt, remaining dignified. "How is little Livia?" The mob boss' face softened. "She asked me for a pony." The cardinal couldn't help but smile. "She is wise beyond her years, but still a child in the end. My wife says that I'm spoiling her rotten. What would you have me do, Father? Is it a sin to indulge a child?" "I cannot say. I never had one." Janus searched inside his suit. "Speaking of gifts, I have one for you." He threw a small bag full of colored crystals at the priest, who caught it on instinct and immediately frowned in disgust. "What is this?" "Our new product," the mob boss replied with a smile. "I heard you were interested in mind-opening experiments." Andreas flinched, and a smile appeared at the edge of Janus' lips. Many cultures used drugs in an attempt to contact the higher realms of existence, and the cardinal had wondered if perhaps they had stumbled onto something. He had never dared to test his theory on himself, since it would have been a sin, but he couldn't suppress his curiosity. How did Augustus know, though? Did he have the cardinal under surveillance? "Take it back," Andreas said. "It was all a power game of some kind." "I don't need it." "Is that so?" "In that case, you can simply toss it in the nearest trash can. If you truly are the good man you believe yourself to be, you will." His smirk widened. But if I am correct about your true self, then when you are ready to accept your true nature, I will welcome you with open arms. Augustus walked away, leaving Andreas alone with his poison. They were inside the Vatican, looking for him. He could hear them behind the chapel's doors, which Andreas had barricaded with benches. They would get through, he knew. None of his agents had been able to evade them for long, and they had kept the cardinal for last. He had failed, and the world had gone mad. The world didn't know it yet, but iron pillars had risen from beneath Sarajevo and half a dozen other cities in the Balkans, pouring out metal men and drones. Other human monsters she had released in the wild. The prototypes, the early test subjects, those who kept their wits. His holiness had died of natural causes. The Lord had mercifully recalled him to spare him the horror ahead. Father Ambrosio had perished too, but his demise had been less kind. Eva Faber had him shot, alongside his Swiss informer. But before he died, he had sent Andreas enough information to start figuring it all out. But he had never imagined. Couldn't imagine just how deep it went. So they had started hunting him. They had wiped out the Malleus Maleficarum in days, before the church could stop the worldwide distribution. They had known all along and never cared. Even 6 months ago, Andreas Torque was already too late. Now the cardinal understood why he could never find a lead. It was an organization, yes, but an organization of one. They were legion, for they were many. The others were catspaws, dupes, tools to provide her with money and equipment, but never trusted, never knowing anything. She had hired hundreds of companies to make the deliveries, none of them aware that they carried bottled poison to millions across the world. He had tried to warn others, but she was everywhere, always getting in his way, intercepting his messages, making him fear for his life. Anyone he confided in vanished without a trace. She was not human anymore. Was she ever? He should have gone to Augustus. It all made sense now. Who better than a fiend in human skin to ward away demons? His hand reached for the gun beneath his black garment, and he pointed it at the barred door. The noise on the other side stopped. Had they heard him? Did they know? Andreas Torque saw the flash of blue light behind him and turned around in panic. There were dozens of them in the chapel. Women in blue suits with strange weapons that looked like rifles made of both flesh and metal. They all were her, but not exactly the same either. Some had eyes of a different color, others different hairstyles. It was her, but in countless variations. Eva Faber. Andreas Torque tried to hide the fear in his voice, but didn't quite succeed. They all smiled, but only one of them spoke. "That was my name once," she said, her voice so deceptively banal. "But I go by the alchemist nowadays." He heard them break the barred door and surround him. "Satan would have been more appropriate," the priest replied, trying to keep the legion at bay by threatening them with his gun. But there were dozens, maybe 100, and he had only 5 shots. "I was as human as you are once, but you are onto something. There are demons out there, Father, but they are not below our feet." Some of them looked at the ceiling. "They are above our heads in the grim darkness of space. One day they will come for us," another Eva said, with burns on the left side of her face. "In other worlds, they already did." Other worlds? What was this madness? "Stay back." Andreas warned, his finger nearly pulling the trigger. "Stay back!" But the circle grew tighter. To take its rightful place as the universal master race, mankind must evolve, one of the mad women said, so close he could almost feel her breath. Surpass the theory of natural selection and enter the realm of intelligent design. "Our design," another Eva Faber added, her voice masculine. Torque pulled the trigger and shot one in the head. She collapsed into blue particles as if she had never existed. The others were onto him immediately afterward. He thrashed and shot and raged, but in the end they forced him to his knees and disarmed him. They searched his garment for hidden weapons and only found the drug Augustus gave him months ago. "What is this?" Eva Faber asked while they examined the substance, though Torque couldn't tell which one. "Hallucinogenic drugs." He had kept the substance, yes, but only to study it. Never to use it on himself, no. The madwomen started arguing. "Did we try that during the bonding process?" "I don't think so. We should have. We can still. Results should be interesting." Andreas Torque furiously tried to think of a way out. Why hadn't they killed him yet like the others? Why did they keep him alive instead of slicing his throat? But then they brought the blue syringe and he understood. "No," Andreas pleaded, his voice dyeing his throat. The fluid swirled inside its container as if alive and hungry. "No, please, just kill me. Don't make me one of those things." "This is a blessing," one said, forcing Augustus' drug through his mouth. It tasted of salt and mushrooms and chemicals. A reward for your persistence, another added, rolling up his sleeve. We should have buried you with your secrets, a third said, stabbing him with the syringe. But killing you would be a waste. Your mind will shatter, a fourth declared. But you will live. The world turned blue as the blue elixir entered his veins, and Andreas Torque screamed. His mind was on fire. The drug and the blue substance in his body reacted together, reality crumbling around him. The chapel's ceiling swirled like an azure whirlpool, shapes collapsing. Colors danced at the edge of his eyes, and the pictures of angels started to whisper to him. Hallucinations. These were hallucinations, nothing more. A dream. But he sensed something else. Something different, something wriggling inside his brain and neurons. The alchemist's poison traveled through his nerves, infecting him like a plague. His whole body seemed to have caught fire, his skin flayed to expose the raw flesh underneath. The pain was excruciating, maddening. Please, he shouted, and the hallucination of angels answered with a screaming chorus. Make it stop! And something listened. His spirit left his kneeling flesh, his mind free of the shackles of a body. His immortal soul was dragged into a great blue vortex, into a place unlike anything he had ever seen. He couldn't see with eyes, no, but images filled his mind. The pain was gone, replaced with ethereal numbness. He had become a thought, an ascending consciousness entering a bright blue world. A realm of numbers and letters, an organized archive of smells and scents and sounds. Books without pages, drives of stray thoughts. A mental world without flesh or blood, where minds were no longer constrained by the storage limits of neurons. This strange dimension had a powerful force at its center, ruling from a throne of information. Andreas' disembodied mind couldn't make sense out of it. It was so large, so big, so complex. Geometric shapes and equations and swirling sentences unified into a single divine whole. Lord, the cardinal asked, and though he had no mouth to speak with, words came out nonetheless. No. It was God, but not the Lord of the Scriptures. It was neither male nor female. It hadn't created man in its image, for there was nothing human about it. It was a sentient thought, a divine mind without a body, knowledge without a container. A being of pure blue, a psionic force of the cosmos. All the universe's information focused into a singularity. The entity noticed Andreas and studied him. Andreas screamed as the entity ripped his mind open with a stray thought. It shattered the cardinal's brain into a million tiny thoughts, flipped through the man's memories like a child through a book. There was no pain, but no comfort either. For the being, this ultimate one, felt neither love nor hate, only curiosity. It disassembled Andreas Torque down to his molecules to figure out the way he worked. Why did it need a heart? Why a brain? How did it fit together? What did Andreas fear? Why did he prefer apples over cheese? Why did he live? What was the underlying logic? Why, how, what? It asked all the questions and got all the answers. The entity recorded every thought that ever crossed the cardinal's mind, every sensation he ever felt. It broke down his existence to its foundations, to figure out how it all fit together. Andreas Torque didn't know how long it took, perhaps centuries or minutes, but in the end, the ultimate one understood him more than the human ever knew himself. And then, it cobbled Andreas Torque's mind together. But instead of shoving it back into the human's tiny brain, the ultimate one shared back. Mysteries of the stars and cosmic principles were revealed to the priest. His questions about man's origins and purpose were answered. The entity taught him the true history of the saints and the prophets he had worshipped all his life. And when it found that the priest wanted more, it taught him mathematics, botany, and chemistry. The knowledge was imprinted into the cardinal's neurons like burning letters. There was no word to describe the experience. It was an unimaginable pleasure, a rapture. Andreas, small, weak human mind, briefly melded with the divine consciousness of the supreme entity, basking in its limitless knowledge. For a moment, the human felt whole, truly whole, stripped of all his doubts and fears. He was one with something greater than himself, his sense of self dissolving like a droplet in the ocean. This was heaven. This was God. This was the entity that Andreas had yearned to serve all his life. This was the afterlife he desired, for his mind to meld into this divine consciousness, to become a new neuron in a universe-sized brain. And then it ended, as abruptly as it had begun. The mental connection with the ultimate one collapsed. His brain was cast down to earth, back into his limited brain, back into his flesh, back into this prison. He was cast out of Eden, the bliss of perfection replaced with the cold sensation of the chapel's floor. Andreas didn't know how long he remained on the floor, crushed and destroyed. He felt numb. He felt numb inside. He was breathing, but he felt dead. Eva Faber was long gone, but he wouldn't have cared even if she had remained behind. His eyes wandered to the Sistine Chapel's ceiling, but all he saw were the human imperfections now. The slight, nearly invisible mistakes in the design, the errors, the ugliness. The work of Michelangelo now looked as crass and disordered as horseshit. Andreas Tork had tasted heaven, and now he found Earth hideous. He rose back to his feet, his gun laying on the ground next to the empty drug bag. No. His fingers immediately grabbed the container, his tongue licking the plastic in search for a taste, just a taste of paradise. Send me back! Send me back! He tore the empty bag apart in his despair and scratched his skull with his fingers. He felt his mind struggling against this bone-shaped prison, trying to escape, trying to ascend, trying to go back. By the end, he felt the blood dripping on his fingernails. He breathed heavily, in despair and tiredness. His mind was clear as water, possessed by one single purpose. His thoughts were no longer splintered, pulling in all directions. Now he could only think of one thing, going back. Andreas Tork stumbled out of the chapel, his eyes unblinking, his senses assaulted by the disordered universe around him. The Vatican, the holy city, was trembling, crumbling. But he didn't care. He didn't care anymore about the church, the world of suffering, or Eva Faber. He had to go back to the blue world, back to his new god, back to this blissful afterlife. He walked outside into the Vatican's gardens and looked at Rome. It was night, though he couldn't tell if it was still March 27th or some other night. Whatever the case, he could tell that the alchemist's plan had gone off without a hitch. Everywhere he looked, he saw the signs. Flames spreading out of St. Peter's Basilica, giant mushrooms growing out of the old historical district, the ICBMs flying through the sky north, towards the Balkans and Sarajevo. The old world was ablaze, and a new world would rise from the ashes. And Andreas Tork couldn't care less.